Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Irish Breakdown Podcast, brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Happy Friday. And it's a Friday in the offseason, which means we get a Friday free-for-all mailbag today. It's been a lot of discussion. One of the college football playoff semifinal games was last night. A game that Brian and I actually crushed the analysis on, big picture.
Dude, I got the score right and everything, but I was like, man, we said Miami needed to control the ball. That was going to, Ole Miss is going to load the box. It's going to open up some big play opportunities down the field. They were going to make enough stops to win the game. Yeah, we nailed that one, brother.
We did, man. One. We sure did. There's a lot of news going on.
Got my one.
Sure did. Bang. Check it off the list. No, I love it. A lot of different news going on between the transfer portal, a lot of different rumblings. Today is your opportunity to get your question, your comment, your concern answered by us. Now, if you want that answered, you submit a question in the live chat. You put MB for mailbag or a mailbox emoji before your question, comment, or concern. That lets us know to set it aside. Then if you want yours bumped up to the top, you can always throw in a super chat as well. We have 36 awesome questions in there right now. I'm excited to dive into it today. Brian, I'm ready to get started on this Friday free-for-all mailbag, man.
I am too, man. And look, our guy Irish English is having a really rough week. So earlier this week already, he takes shots at tight ends. Now he says Hulk is greater than Superman. Guy's just kind of saying some craziness right now. So I'm going to pray for you, Irish English, because you are on a bad take roll this week, my friend. Bad take roll. So, but we love you. And we got a super chat to start us off, brother.
There we go.
And by the way, if news breaks during the show, like there's some things we're expecting to happen, but we don't know if it's going to happen in 5 minutes, 5 hours, Saturday, next Tuesday. You know the way Notre Dame works, right? Like they love to sit on things and different things like that. But if it happens, when we get to our next break in the show, we will pause and then talk about the news and then go back to the mailbag. So just want to give you guys an idea. We don't know that something's going to happen. We're just saying, like, we know that things are going to happen. We just don't know when they're going to happen. So just want to give you guys a heads up on that. So, and then I think, we have a super chat, but I think this is the best way to start from Jari Z Bear. He just has a comment. SEC sucks. No question. Just facts. I do want to start off with that, Trevor, because the SEC obviously doesn't suck. Right. And I get what he's saying. And I love the shade. We said this, the SEC is the deepest conference in college football this year, but it wasn't deep of top level teams. It was deep from the standpoint of like team 13 could beat team 3 is kind of how the league was this year. And my issue is there was no great teams in the committee and who is a lackey for ESPN acted like the SEC was this gauntlet this year, which it clearly is not. And they had no business getting 5 teams in. And they tried their best to stack the deck in a way that made it almost impossible for an SEC team not to get to the final game. And they're still not going to have a team get into the final game. And the team that made it the furthest is a team whose coach left right before the playoff started. And so it's a shame that we didn't get the playoff we could have got and should have got with Notre Dame in it, potentially BYU in it. Like honestly, the SEC is closer to the Big 12 and how it's formatted than what we see from what the SEC used to be. Yeah. Meaning like there may not be any great teams because there's no great team in the SEC right now, but there's a lot of good teams. But that shouldn't warrant that many teams in the playoff. And kudos to Miami for a big win. Miami won that game. There was no flukes. I mean, yeah, okay, there was a bad no call on the Hail Mary at the end. What are the odds that they still score on the next play? Still not great. You know what I mean? But look, that was a really well-played game. 2 good football teams, and the better team won. And the game went exactly kind of how we thought it would go. We'll see how tonight's goes. But, I think those are things I look at, Trev, and I just say in a world where we really cared about truth and honesty and integrity and evaluation, the committee would now look at the SEC and say, hey, look, 3 years in a row, the SEC hasn't even had a team in the title game. and they've had 2 teams in the semifinals, and they both got beat. Maybe the league isn't as good as we thought it was. Maybe the Big 12 deserves more credit. Maybe the ACC is better than people think it is. You know what I mean? So all those things need to be taken into account. And, oh, by the way, we completely dropped the ball on not having Notre Dame in the playoffs. So I do think that comment from Jarzy Baird should spark some conversation about, the SEC doesn't deserve the benefit of the doubt that it used to. That's the kind explanation. As people have pointed out to me when I've said the benefit of the doubt, it's not benefit of the doubt. It's a rigged game. And at this point in time, I don't have a good argument to push back on it because it looks like a rigged game. And this playoff showed that, because I'm not one that's like, oh, they didn't have great postseason success, so this validates this. I mean, I don't think that's always true, but they looked in the postseason exactly like they looked in the regular season, which is like not that great and overrated, which is why all those teams got beat, not only in the postseason, but also at the end of the season. I mean, go look at what happened to, Louisville, Kentucky, Clemson, South Carolina. I mean, how'd Clemson look in their bowl game against a 6-6 Penn State team? They didn't have a bunch of dudes sitting out. They still got beat. They smacked South Carolina, who almost beat Texas A&M, who almost beat Alabama. Like, the league's not what it was. Could it get back to that? Very quickly it could. No question. And I think the reason the Big Ten is better, and a lot is being made, Trevor, and I really want to get your thoughts on this. A lot of is being made of the portal. And I agree that the portal and NIL, not so much portal, NIL, is a big reason why for this success. And for the sort of coming down from the mountaintop that the SEC is dealing with. And I certainly think that's part of it. I would be a fool to think that the fact that teams can now pay players in ways that the SEC was doing for a long time is part of it. But let's not act like the SEC was the only league that was given benefits to players. Can we not go there, right? Can we not pretend that that's true? But I do think it's part of it. But I think the other part of it is coaching. The Big Ten think about who the Big Ten has added to that league in recent years as coaches. They've added Kurt Cignetti, Dan Lanning. You had Kalen DeBoer. You could have had Kalen DeBoer if he didn't leave. Brett Bielema. Going through the list right here, you've got those are new additions, right? Even Lincoln Riley is an upgrade from where they have been before. The league already had, Jim Harbaugh until a couple years ago, Kirk Ferentz. It already had PJ Fleck, who's a solid coach. It already had kind of going, James Franklin, who was, a good coach for Greg Schiano's a good football coach. It's got Luke Fickell. The coaching in the Big Ten, and it already had Ryan Day, the coaching in the Big Ten clearly is pretty good. And then you look at the SEC, and it's like Lane Kiffin, who's like the most up and down immature coach on the planet. I think Mike Elko was a great addition. Kirby's obviously a great coach. Kalen DeBoer is a really good coach. I think he's a terrible fit at Alabama. Steve Sarkisian, is he a great coach? I don't think we know that yet. Brett Venables, is he a great coach? I don't think we know that yet. 2 great coordinators. Don't know if they're great coaches. Clark Lee's been a great addition. Eli Drinkwitz is a good coach. Josh Heupel's a good coach. Are they great coaches? Are they proven coaches at this level? In their league, maybe. Not outside of the league. Mark Stoops isn't the same guy. Brian Kelly was a terrible hire there. Billy Napier was completely a bad fit. Hugh Freeze was a terrible coach. Shane Beamer's a very average coach. Sam Pittman's a very average coach. I think it's a lot of it's coaching. And then, the coordinator hires and things like that. When I watch the Big Ten teams play and I watch the SEC teams play, by and large, I still see more talented rosters in the SEC. When I watched Iowa and Vanderbilt play each other, I didn't look at Iowa and be like, oh, dude, they're way more talented than Vanderbilt. Even in that game, I said, they're a better coach football team. They're a more disciplined football team. And that's been true in almost every time you watch a matchup between the two teams. The SEC has the better athletes for the most part. The other teams are better coached. And I think that's a big reason why you're seeing this parity as well.
I think so too. I mean, on top of the coaching issues, because then you start talking about lack of player development, and we're starting to see that at a certain level. And look, I understand the transfer portal hurts some teams. It's the SEC is not the only conference being hurt. SEC teams are not the only teams being hurt by the transfer portal. Ohio State right now has brought in 5 players, and they've lost like 25 players. So the transfer portal doesn't just raid the SEC. Argument could be made that it was definitely more swayed down south in the start of this new age portal era. I think there is some truth to that. I think the other thing that really, really hurts the SEC is their teams play without a lack of identity. That's something that I've kind of picked up after watching them this season. There's a common theme going on with all of the Big Ten teams that you listed off, and they have some level of identity. Like IU with Kurt Cignetti, they're going to be extremely well coached. They're going to be great on defense. They're going to run a balanced offense. I don't know if another team in the country has a more established identity than Iowa. Like, I mean, you could argue that Iowa has just under Kirk Ferentz has the most profound established identity in all of college football. You know what you're getting with Iowa year in and year out. What was Alabama's identity this year? And I know we can poke fun and make jokes of like, can't run the ball and you have an overrated team. Okay, sure. But legitimately, what was Alabama's identity this year? Couldn't tell you. Teams are starting to go away from their identities. And I mean, Georgia's identity was just profound defense. It was you're not moving the ball on the dogs. Like you're not moving the ball up and down. I mean, that changed this year. Tennessee, an 8-4 team, moved the ball at will against Georgia. Ole Miss, in their loss in the regular season and in the win in the Sugar Bowl, moved the ball up and down the field on Georgia. That's going away from your identity. What's the cultural identity of Florida? Couldn't tell you. It's not a mystery to me that an 11-1 SEC team in Texas A&M, a team that went into South Bend and beat Notre Dame, had an identity this season. Why? To follow up on Brian's point, really good coaching under Mike Elko. Kirby Smart for even at least he still has some sort of culture there. I may not necessarily agree with the culture at times, but there's still some level of culture down in Athens, Georgia. This is the biggest thing.
There's a football culture. There's not a let's be good human beings culture, but there's a good football culture there.
Yes. It all wraps into what standard has been set. There's no standard at Florida right now. There's no Kalen DeBoer is not living up to the standard of Alabama football. And when I mean Alabama football, I don't mean Nick Saban football. That's the tough task to ask anybody to come in and do. When you get a football stadium named after you, it's hard to ask the guy coming in to be like, hey, we need you to coach like that guy's name up there. That's not fair. But there's no standard for Alabama football right now. They're undisciplined. What is the standard? It's disciplined football. It's gritty defense. You don't have to be Nick Saban to demand that of your players. And that's not what Alabama was this year. So I think on top of the coaching issues, there's just a lack of identity problem down in the SEC. And they're now falling back on, well, we have top-level talent. Because your point, by and large, I think the SEC does have more talent than the Big Ten overall. But those are some issues that you're running into, and you're starting to see it reflect. I mean, even going into yesterday, Brian, before the Ole Miss and Miami game, you pulled up that graphic of like the FanDuel odds for who was going to like the best odds to win the championship. Even though the SEC had 4 teams in, the SEC team was the 4th likely team. It went Indiana, then Oregon, then Miami, then Ole Miss. I'm pretty sure
they had 5 teams in.
No. I'm talking like the graphic that you pulled up of the final 4 teams remaining of odds. Yeah. Ole Miss had the 4th best odds to win.
Oh, I'm sorry. You said the SEC had 4 teams in. I misunderstood. That's my bad. Yes, agree.
Like that's what's
and they were significantly lowest of the 4 teams. Like as I pointed out, they were as close to the third. The third team was as close to Ole Miss as they were to Indiana.
Yep.
So yeah,
100%.
Yep. All right, let's go to some. That was a good way to kick off the show. Not bitter, just facts, data.
Yep.
Let's kick off the show. Let's get going with some questions.
I have an article coming out about that this weekend. Super chat from Tyler Evans. Appreciate you, Tyler. If you're a player on the Washington Huskies, how would you handle Damon Williams' situation, and what do you think of his agent dropping him?
So I don't have an opinion on the agent dropping him because I need to understand why. Did his agent drop him because he's deciding to go back into Washington and his agent doesn't like that? Is his agent dropping him because he did not agree with the entire process? He had agreed to a contract. Somebody else was pulling DeMond towards going back in the portal, and he didn't agree with that, so he's doing this. There's different ways that can go without me knowing why the agent dropped him. Did he tell the agent he was going to drop him, and then the agent made a preemptive strike by dropping him? I don't know the answer to that, and without knowing the answer to that, I can't really speak on it. All I can tell you is this is a bad situation. There are a lot of snakes and sharks in the college football world right now. I'd like to tell you that it's only the agents. It's not. It's also coaches, because here's the deal. If coaches had respect for the game and had respect for the profession, he would not jump in the portal. Do you know why he wouldn't jump in the portal? Because nobody would take him or talk to him because, bro, you've already signed a contract. Like, I'm not doing that. How would I feel if my quarterback did that? But they don't care. They don't care if it happens to somebody else. You get these schools like, oh, this is terrible what's happening in college football. Your school did that, and we're going to punish you. We're suing. Like that's what's going on. And so the coaches are just as – there are coaches who are just as big as scumbags as the scumbaggiest of the agents. And I don't know if his agent is that way. He's obviously got a lawyer now that's going to handle it. At the end of the day, he went back because they realized we're going to lose this court battle. He can go to LSU or Miami if he wants to. They can't keep him from transferring because they can refuse to put his name in the portal, but he can just do what Xavier Lucas did last year, unenroll from school and go to that school as basically a walk-on, and then your NIL deal is going to pay for school and still play. But the contract that he signed, which from everybody I've talked to is very enforceable, would mean LSU would be responsible, if they got him, for paying that $4 million back. And that $4 million, from what I read from a Twitter lawyer, was that would go towards their rev share next year. So like not this year, but like next year. That's not a look that you want to, or maybe it was this year. So basically whatever you paid him was going to go towards the rev share, but then the $4 million, that's what it was. It was for this year. Whatever you pay him goes towards the rev share, but then the $4 million that you would then have to pay the school would also go towards your rev share. So half your rev share money right there is in one player. And I'm told that's part of the reason that LSU and some of those other teams backed out. And it's a terrible look for DeAndre Williams. And basically, if I'm a player, we're going to sit down and have a very loud, vocal, heart-to-heart conversation in the locker room. And you're going to look us all in the eye and explain to us why you did what you did. We're going to need you to apologize and say that you're bought in. You gotta tell us kind of like, what are you going to do? This isn't about how I'm going to handle it. This is about how you're going to handle it, Damon. And if you're willing to show true remorse, not like I'm coming back because I have to, but man, this is wrong. I can't believe this happened. Like, I wonder if the agent put that thing out during that girl's funeral and Damon was not happy about that. And that led to some beef. I mean, it made Damon look terrible. You know, because like all his teammates are at this funeral for was she a volleyball soccer player? What? I forget what sport she played. But a girl, I think she died of cancer. I think is what I believe. But they were at a funeral for an athlete from Washington and who had died like in the fall. And not a funeral, a memorial for a girl that had died. And the Twitter release that all the players saw was during that memorial. So there's so many things that are like, I just soccer goalie. Thank you. I just want to know who did what and when and all those type of things before I can say, you know, who I'm still upset with or whatever. But he's going to have to do all the work as far as getting back in the good graces. This isn't about the Washington players doing anything to fix this problem. This is all on Damon. What are you going to do to fix this problem? And then if he shows true remorse and there's some level of, okay, this is what you got to do, then eventually when you show me that this remorse is genuine, I will give you forgiveness as a leader. You know, as a Christian, you ask for forgiveness, I'm going to give you forgiveness because that's what the Bible teaches me to do. But me forgiving you is not the same as me trusting you again. And that's really what it's the trust. It's not so much forgiveness as if they have a meeting in the locker room and he says, hey guys, I'm sorry, I messed up. Then bam, you're forgiven, brother. But you got to show me that you still got to earn your trust back though. Right? Like we forgive you for this, but in order for us to move forward as one, you got to earn our trust back. And that's what I think he needs to do. And then they need to be willing to allow him to do that as teammates.
Yeah, maybe I'm just a little harsh with this. If I were a player on the Washington Huskies, like you can give me an apology. I'm going to have a really hard time believing that you actually wrote it. You actually meant it. I don't know if he even has an agent or a lawyer or somebody helping him out to write it. Sure. I mean, I'll look you in the face and say, sure, cool. Yeah, we're cool, man. But you didn't come back to Washington because you wanted to. You came back to Washington because you had to. That's always going to be the thought in my mind until you go out and prove that you can still lead this team. And that's where I would be, Tyler, if I was a player on Washington. Like, if you give us a speech in the locker room, that's cool. That carries very little weight with me. I'm definitely more of an action person over words. And if over the offseason, that's what's going to be spent, that's how DeAndre Williams has to spend his offseason, is just rebuilding his image with the team. Like, that's what it has to be. It's like everybody has to be 10 toes down for the team. DeAndre Williams' image as far as college football is concerned is shot. Like, my opinion of him is been made up, right or wrong, like until proven otherwise. But right now his focus has to be on regaining the trust of his teammates and the coaching staff. Because like I said, you didn't come back to Washington because you wanted to. You came back to Washington because you had to. That's going to carry a long way with me of a player that was expected to be a team captain and the leader of the offense and one of the leaders of the team. People look up to the starting quarterback of a college football team. So, yeah, actions for me are going to carry a lot of weight with that situation if I'm a player on Washington.
Yep. Agree. Good super chat. And then we got another super chat down here from Tyler.
Appreciate you, man. Sam Levitt to Miami. What do you think of that move?
Yeah, is that official? I know that he's visiting.
Just visiting. That's the only thing that I've seen.
Look, he's a talented quarterback. I'm not super high on Sam Levitt. He's going to get paid like he's a game changer, and I just don't know that he's a game changer. I mean, let's you know, I don't know, man. He's a good player, and he would help Miami. I don't know that he's a step back from Carson Beck, but Carson Beck showed me some things in this playoff that I didn't think he had from a grittiness standpoint. That I don't know Sam Levitt has. I think Sam Levitt's a tough kid. He'll run around and take a hit, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of money chasers, and he's been doing it. I mean, you know, he was trying to get out of Arizona State last year. There weren't any takers for what he was looking for. You know, he basically quits on the team this year. I'm just not a big Sam Levitt fan. When Kenny Dillingham has kind of words that aren't kind for you, then you're probably not the greatest kid in the world, because Kenny Dillingham just is like Mr. Always Sunshine and Rainbows. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I'm not a big fan of Sam Levitt. I'll just say this. If Sam Levitt picks Miami, I'm not like, oh man, that game's going to be a whole lot tougher now when they come to South Bend on November 7th. I'm not a big fan, but the options for Miami are running lower.
Yeah.
You know, like who's left?
Yeah. I'll have the same feelings about Sam Levitt going to Miami that I did this time last year when Carson Beck was announced to go to Miami. You have a lot to prove to me at that system. Mm-hmm. You have a lot to prove to me at that school. And what Carson Beck has done so far through this postseason has proved me wrong. I mean, part of my prediction for the Miami Ole Miss game was when Carson Beck just has a big enough sample size of throws, he's just going to make a mistake. And he avoided that big mistake. Ran in the game-winning touchdown. So Sam Levitt will have that opportunity. Do I think he can? I don't know. Maybe. I didn't think Carson Beck would, and he proved me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So is there a possibility? Sure. I mean, as far as the move, if they pick him up, I'm relatively impartial. Doesn't change my opinion of that matchup on November 7th either. So that's kind of where I'm at with Sam. Super chat from Rubes05, 1 to 10. How do you feel about Notre Dame getting Keon Keeley?
I appreciate the super chat. Look, I don't know that I'm going to give you a 1 to 10 because, again, I don't do the whole take a kid's moment thing, but I like where Notre Dame is right now, and I'll just kind of leave it at that. So, but until things are, signed and announced and all that stuff, I'm going to just say I'm like where things are and let Keon have his moment, whatever it is. Whether he decides he wants to come back to Notre Dame or do something different, it's his moment to have. Aiden Benami, should Notre Dame pick up Jaden Lamar in the portal? I kid. Yes. No, they should not.
Another one from Iden. Could you ever see Coach Freeman pulling a Lane Kiffin, but for the NFL? I can't imagine it. I'd be physically ill, but never say never these days.
No. I mean, he there's no reason to do it. Like, the NFL season will still be going on. Like, let's just say that next season, Notre Dame goes 12-0, and they're getting ready to go to the college football playoffs. And the Pittsburgh Steelers decide they want to hire Marcus Freeman as their head football coach. I mean, okay, have they fired Mike Tomlin already? I mean, the season's not over yet. The NFL just finished their regular season a week ago. After, 2 rounds of the college football playoffs have already been played. So, you'd be talking about him going to a team that stinks, that's already fired their coach, like, the Giants did this year. Okay, he decides he's going to take that job. Fine. Okay, it is what it is. What would he possibly do for that team? He's not coaching them this year. There's no recruiting to do. There's no portal coming down the pike. Look, what Lane Kiffin did was wrong, but the reason he did it, beyond just that's who he is they've got a signing day coming up beginning of December. They've got the transfer portal opens up in January. He's got which means two-way street. I got to retain the guys that we want at LSU, and then I got to go after the guys that we want to bring into LSU, all happening within the next month to month and a half. And I got to put a staff together, all these kind of things. In the NFL, there's really nothing Marcus Freeman can do for another month. So, what's the point of him even leaving at that point in time? So, and that doesn't even include the conversation of he just doesn't strike me as the kind of human being, the kind of man that would do that. Because if he is, then I've read Marcus Freeman completely wrong. Completely wrong. I could see him agreeing to take a job, but then coaching Notre Dame through the playoffs. I wouldn't be happy about that. If I'm Marcus Freeman, I'd tell that team that wants me, hey, if you really want me, then you'll wait till after the playoffs for us to have this conversation, and you won't go leaking this stuff. But that's my wishful thinking. I don't. I've said this before. I don't think Marcus Freeman and his people around him have a great feel for PR. But I can't imagine a world where Marcus Freeman would sit down and make the decision, I'm going to walk away from my team who's about to go to the playoffs to go coach another team. Nothing about Marcus Freeman, nothing I know in my personal interactions with him, nothing I know from things I've heard about him, from people that know him, people that trust him, people that are even maybe don't have a trust, but just know him relatively well. There is not a thing I've heard from anyone that would make me think he would do that. I don't know that there's anything that could happen that would shock me more. I'm not saying I'm not talking about him leaving to take a job. I'm talking about I do not see him walking away from his team going to the playoffs.
No.
Just don't see it.
No, I could absolutely see him leaving to go to the NFL, just not in the same manner that Lane Kiffin did. Mm-hmm. So, no, I could never see Freeman doing that either.
Yeah. That would just shock me. Just absolutely shock me. I don't think he's that kind of person.
Nope.
If you were to ask me this question, hey, Brian, next year, if you'd asked me a year ago at this time, let's say next year Lane Kiffin leads Ole Miss to the playoffs and he gets offered the LSU job. Do you think he would leave for the LSU job, or do you think he would stay and coach Ole Miss? I'd be like, he'll probably leave, or he'll probably try to still want to coach, but do all these things at Ole Miss and then it'll be a real ugly situation. And I've been like, that's exactly what I would have said would have happened, because that's who Lane Kiffin is. It fits his character. I mean, let's not forget that this is the same guy that Nick Saban said, no, go ahead and go coach Florida Atlantic. We'll be fine. I'm going to have Steve Sarkisian run my offense. You know what I mean? And this is a guy that got left on the tarmac by USC. Like, this is not a guy that's had great endings at places he's been. And what's the common denominator between all those ugly situations? It's Lane Kiffin.
From Josh Buffo, over under 5 transfer portal commits by Tuesday of next week.
Oh gosh, Josh, public commitments probably under. Private commitments close to a push. I mean, I don't think this is going to be a big portal class. I think they're at least going to get one end, one tackle, one kicker, maybe a wide receiver. But they're still also trying for a second tackle, a second end, a nickel. I mean, they're trying. They're trying for more things, but I don't know that it's all going to be over by next Tuesday. I hope so, because I'm kind of sick of talking about it and just want to know who they are so we can start talking about this team.
Yeah, agreed. Super chat from Danny Roberts. Appreciate you, man. You've been critical of Notre Dame's PR abilities, and rightfully so. Why is this? Can you elaborate? How can Notre Dame get better?
I don't know why it is, because I can't read their minds. I think it's because there's just a lack of I don't know that there's a priority. If I'm going to give you a professional answer, not like an emotional, like it's BS kind of thing, but the professional version of that, I don't think that there is a proper importance placed on doing right by the fan base or the conduits to the fan base, the people that work hard to cover the team and invest in reporting on the team and things like that. Look, we aren't owed, sunshine and rainbows. We aren't owed, hugs and kisses every time they see us. We aren't owed phone calls telling us how great we are, because A, that's not their job, and B, we're not all great. But there's a level of, in my opinion, professional courtesy that should exist that doesn't exist. There's a level of we're here, you're here that exists. And I think a lot of it ends up kind of being on the fans. I thought for a while that this was existing because Notre Dame was going to start to kind of create their own content. And they are to a degree. Tony does, the play-by-play guy, does a great job on the, Wake Up the Echoes. Big fan of Tony, great guy, really kind guy. Those things are great. Those things Notre Dame should absolutely be doing. But they do way less of the online, the Twitter videos. When was the last time we saw Notre Dame put a video out about a player from 2025? I mean, by this time, we're now over a month away since the season's been over. Where's the hype? We've seen something on Jeremiah Love. We saw something on the guy, but where's just the edit of Drake Bowen's year? Where's the edit of Boubacar's season? Where's the edit of Jordan Faison's season? You know what I mean? And I get they've got Here Come the Irish and all that kind of stuff, whatever. But you got to pay a premium subscription to pay for that stuff. Just fine. What we have, I mean, it's November, season ended on November 29th or something like that. We have not heard a public word from Marcus Freeman since that game ended, I believe. Right?
National Signing Day, early National
Signing Day. So we've seen him once, and that was talking about recruits. It wasn't addressing all the things going on in the program. So I just don't think there's a proper level of importance placed on being good communicators with your bloodline, which is the fan base. Unfortunately, in modern sports, and Notre Dame's not alone in this, because of the amount of money that's coming in, you're getting your ad revenue and you got your donors. I think a lot of the leadership of different institutions no longer believe fans matter as much as they used to. It used to be where fans were all that mattered. If we can't get their butts in their seats their butts in the seats and buying concessions and giving smaller donations and stuff like that, all the alums giving money back, we're going to struggle to survive. Well, then TV contracts came in, and you're getting tens of millions of dollars from NBC or ESPN or Fox or whatever. You're getting your big $1 million donors giving you these huge donations. And now schools spend all their time sort of playing to that crowd, trying to keep ESPN happy and NBC happy and their big donors happy. And the little guy becomes less and less and less important. And they'd probably be pissed to hear me say this, but that's fine. But that's what your actions show. The fact that it would be impossible, like Vince, he works for the city, of Granger. He's a dean. But he's got 5 kids. There's no way Vince could afford to take his wife and 5 kids to a Notre Dame football game. No way. I mean, to do that in concessions, you're probably looking at close to $1,000 for most games. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's just a lot of things, and you hear fans complain all the time about different aspects of it. So I'll just say this. There's not a proper level of importance placed on doing right by the fan base. Because if there was, not only would we have more access, but even if you didn't give us more access, you would then be providing the data to the fan base. And I'm not, when I say talking to the fan base, like, they don't have to tell us who they're recruiting and who their portal visitors are. That's not even the stuff that I'm talking about. Like, that's a privilege. That's not necessarily something that I think they owe the fan base, but just a more of an engagement, more of an access to the team, and that's kind of my frustration with it. And then when there are things that happen, they just don't fight. They don't go out there and say, hey, here's why we are doing what we're doing. Here's why you shouldn't be doing what you're doing. And that's my frustration.
That's the bigger area of my frustration, is the fact that their response has been so passive. I mean, through it all. I mean, they were taking it on the chin for a month from the ACC. Once again, in Mario Cristobal's post, and I understand, look, my opinion, the time has passed for the stick up for your team thing. Dude, you're getting ready to play a national championship, and then yet again, I have to hear Mario Cristobal in the post-game press conference talk about, and this is why head-to-head matters. Like, again, I had to listen to some no-name anchor on SportsCenter at night on ESPN take just an unwilling shot at Notre Dame. Why do those things keep happening? Because they're allowing them to happen.
They know there'll be no pushback.
Yeah, they're doing these things because they know there's no repercussion. You talk significantly less trash to somebody that could hit you back.
Yep.
Significantly. You see it in sports, you see it in politics, you see it in life. And that's what's so frustrating to me. Notre Dame is allegedly this big, powerful brand, but it's turned into elitism where they're like, well, they can say whatever they want. We know what we are. And it's like, yeah, everybody else knows what you are too. And it's not the image that you think that you're creating. And that's what's frustrating me about Notre Dame's PR. That's why I've been so critical about it.
Yep.
Because you're just allowing all of these things to happen, and then your fans are the ones that have to sit there and take it on the chin for you.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're going to sit there and handle everything behind closed doors. To Brian's point, you don't have to tell us every single meeting, every single this, every single that's going on in the transfer portal and recruiting and who's going where and who's talking to who. That's fine. When operations get as big as Notre Dame, we're not supposed to know that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that. I'm not naive to that fact either. But when your fan base on social media are the ones that are defending your brand, that becomes the issue. That's my biggest gripe with Notre Dame's PR abilities, because to me, they just don't care. That's my call to action. Show me that you care. Because right now, I don't think that you do. And that's really unfortunate.
I think they care. I just don't think that I think that they don't feel they need. We're Notre Dame. We don't have to respond to that. And I just, and part of me wonders if part of that is, do you have people that truly value Notre Dame the way that they should? Well, I don't know that I want to go that route, because when I take this job, I want ESPN to like me. Yeah. So it's a yeah.
From Aidan Benami, in regards to level of great coaches, who can you compare Coach Partridge to from previous Notre Dame staffs? Maybe not as good as Harry Heatstand, but better than Elko, just using those two as an example.
No, better than Elko. good Lord, if he's better than Elko, then Notre Dame's going to set world records next year in tackles for loss and sacks. I mean, like Mike Elko was a phenomenal coach at Notre Dame. Like, do you guys understand what he inherited? He literally inherited the worst 3-year stretch of Notre Dame defense in school history. And immediately they went out and won 10 games his first year with him. And we're pretty solid on defense. You know what I mean? So if he's as good as Elko, that's going to be a phenomenal hire. But it's also apples to oranges because Mike Elko was a defensive coordinator. Chris Partridge is the D-line coach. Do I think Charlie Partridge? Chris Partridge is definitely not the guy that they hired. Thank God. Charlie Partridge. Do I think Charlie Partridge can have an impact on the defensive line that's comparable to the one that Coach Easton had in 2012 when he took over? Yeah, actually, I do. I mean, based on reputation, I do. Now, can I sit there and tell you that I guarantee it? No, I can't guarantee it. I watched a lot more Harry Easton offensive line film when he came than I've watched of Charlie Partridge's defensive line film, specifically going into this comment. But reputation, and then remembering what I saw from his D lines when I was breaking down Pitt, when Notre Dame was going to be playing Pitt. Yeah, I get it. I think he can have a significant impact.
Yeah.
Look, simply put, Trev, he has a reputation as one of the best defensive line coaches in the game.
Yeah.
In college football. That's the reputation.
Agreed. Reputation coming in is great. I'm going to stick by my guns and what I always say. Some of it also depends on what you do when you get in here. It's hard for me to compare them to people that I've seen coach at Notre Dame and then talk about who I can compare Charlie Partridge to. It's a fair question, Idan. It's just until I see him on the practice fields and then what Notre Dame's defensive line looks like come, Wisconsin and then a full regular season sample size, it'd be very hard to compare him to what Harry Heatstein's impact was and what Mike Elko's impact was.
Yep. Muhammad Abdi with a question.
Brian, do you think expanding the playoffs to 12 teams made it resemble D2, D3 playoffs in competitiveness? And do you think expanding to 16 is unnecessary?
No, I don't think that's true at all. Look, I'm good. Let me pull up. Hold on a second. Let me pull up the college football scores from the 4-team playoffs. Okay, semifinal games, 4 teams. 2015, you had the championship game was 42-20, and the semifinals were. Let me find it here. The semifinal games were 59 to. Let me find it here real quick. That's the championship. I want this just the playoff. Here we go. Playoff. You had the first ever playoff. One game was good. Ohio State 42, Alabama 35. The other game, Oregon won 59-20. The championship game, Ohio State won 42-20. 3 games, 2 blowouts. The next season, Clemson beat Oklahoma by 20. Alabama beat Michigan State by 38. Alabama beat Clemson 45-40 in a great game. 3 games, 2 blowouts. The next season, 2016, Alabama beat Washington 24-7. Clemson beat Ohio State 31-0. Clemson beat Bama in the title 35-31. 3 games, 2 blowouts. We'll keep going here, okay? The next year is the anomaly. Bama beat Clemson by 18. Georgia and Oklahoma went to OT. Bama, Georgia went to OT. 3 games, not even 2 in it, 1 blowout. They won by 18, but that was a competitive football game. They had a blocked punt return, stuff like that. The next year, Clemson beats Notre Dame by 27. Alabama beats Oklahoma by 11. Clemson beats Alabama by 28. 3 games, none of them were competitive. The next year, 2019, LSU beats Oklahoma 63-28. Clemson beats Ohio State 29-23. LSU beats Clemson 42-25. 3 games, 2 blowouts. 2020, Alabama beats Notre Dame by 17 in a game that wasn't that close. Ohio State beat Clemson by 21. Alabama beat Ohio State by 28. 3 games, 3 blowouts. 2021, Alabama wins by 21. Georgia wins by 23. Georgia beats Alabama by 15 in the title game. 3 games, all decided by double figures. There were 2 good competitive semifinal games in 2022. Ohio State lost to Georgia by 1. TCU beat Michigan by 6. Then Georgia beat TCU in the championship game by 58. So like, guys, we could kind of do this all day. The semifinals were not in the semifinals so far have been more competitive in the expanded playoff era because teams that should have got in the past are now getting their opportunity. So, and then, okay, well then should we even expanded the playoffs, at all? Okay, let's go back and talk about some scores from the 1-2 games. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's go all the way back to the Fiesta Bowl back in 1995 when Nebraska beat, Florida. What was it? It was like 63-20 or something like that. You know what I mean? And let's talk about when USC beat Oklahoma by 30, 40. Let's talk about the Notre Dame Alabama game. Let's talk about the Ohio State Florida game in 2006. Let's talk about Miami against Nebraska in 2001. You know what I mean? Like, even then, let's talk about LSU versus Oklahoma in 2000 or in 2000, was it 04? Let's talk about that one. Let's talk about LSU Ohio State in 2007. No matter what level you're at, no matter whether they've been 1-2 or only 4 teams get in or now 12 teams get in, you're going to have a lot of blowouts because that's football. I mean, the Denver Broncos made it to the Super Bowl 3 out of 4 years, and they got beat by 19 the first time, 32 the second time, and 45 the third time. That's going to happen because on any given day, not everybody brings their A game. Even if it's the 2 best teams in the country, they're not going to bring their A game. So this isn't a new phenomenon in the 12-team playoffs. And again, the semifinals so far have been super competitive. We've had 3 semifinal games so far in the 12-team playoff. Ohio State beat Ohio State beat Texas by 14, but that was a great game. That was a 21-14 game with what was it, like 2.5 minutes left, something like that, Trev?
Wow.
Texas has the ball first and goal with a chance to tie the game. They fumble. Ohio State runs it back. So the 28-14 score does not reflect how that game was played. It was a much more competitive game. And then, of course, Notre Dame Penn State comes down to the absolute wire. Just like Miami Ole Miss was a great football game. We'll see what Oregon Indiana looks like tonight, but 3 of the 4 games have been competitive. And Ohio State jumped on Notre Dame early last year. Notre Dame came back. It was a competitive football game. We'll see how this year's championship game goes. But I think what it has done is it's created better semifinal games so far. Yeah, the quarterfinals have sucked and the first round games haven't been very good. But what that's done is that's weeded out the pretenders that used to make the semifinals because they won their league or whatever. So those semifinal teams that didn't belong now get weeded out. What would Notre Dame in 2018 have looked like against Clemson if they were able to get a game or 2 under their belt before they played, where they hadn't played for like over a month when they played? Maybe it looks the same. Maybe it looks different. We don't know. So I think expansion has been good for the sport in regard to the championship game. I think it's made for some bad first-round games, but that's kind of going to happen. But there have been a couple upsets. Quarterfinals. Hey, Notre Dame doesn't belong in the playoffs. Well, now Notre Dame gets their chance to show that they do or they don't. Last year, they proved that they belong. They beat Indiana by 10, and it wasn't that close. They beat Georgia by 13. They beat Penn State. And then nobody's going to say, well, they didn't belong. Well, okay, yeah, maybe they were pretty good. Ohio State doesn't belong. They lost to Michigan the last game of the season, and they didn't look good in November. Okay, cool. They have a chance. They got to beat Tennessee, Oregon, and Notre Dame, and Texas and Notre Dame to get there. There was no easy path for the Buckeyes last year. They had to earn their way, and they did. They beat everybody by double digits. You know what I mean? So I think what the expanded playoff has done is it eliminates the pretenders before we get to the semifinals. And whereas in the past, like, let's be real, in 2015, Michigan State's not sniffing the semifinals of a 12 to 16 game playoff. That was a good football team, Trev, but they were not winning 2 games or 1 game to get the semi. They were not. They were going to get beat by somebody. Now those pretenders get knocked out before. You get knocked out earlier. 2014 Florida State does not get to the semifinals and get knocked out by Oregon. they probably get knocked out because that was a paper tiger that year. So I think in a lot of ways it's been good for the sport to see the expansion. It's what's bad for the sport is they haven't gotten the right teams in. Even last year, Clemson and Arizona State, especially Clemson, didn't belong in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So getting rid of that stuff, fix the seeding, go. But I think 12 to 16 does is it puts everybody on. Once you get to the postseason, it puts everybody on the same lane. Whoever wins has got to win 4. Now, some teams have a easier path. We get the 16 seed and then the 8-9 winner and all that kind of stuff, which is fine. But we don't have to talk about, well, is it better to get the bye or not? That's done. And that's why I think 16 is necessary, in my opinion.
Yeah, agreed. 7 of the 8 teams that have received byes in the 2 years of the 12-team playoffs have lost. I mean, it's absolutely made the semifinals significantly more competitive because in a 4-team playoff, the semifinals were decided by voters. It's like we think and we believe based on this metric and this metric, nothing matchup based, but because of this metric and this metric, these are the 4 best teams. So, yeah, I mean, that's why I love playoffs. You can settle it on the field. I agree completely with you.
I want to respond to somebody, too, that made a comment that says Tyler Benji, average FBS attendance in 2008-9 was 49,000. In 2023, it's around 42,000. The big programs are still packing them in, but the mid-tier programs are seeing 20 to 30% declines. I would like to see a study that shows whether or not current attendance is based on ticket sales or who shows up. There's not turnstiles anymore. They scan tickets and stuff, but are they giving you the number of people that walked into the stadium with a ticket, or are they telling you the number of tickets sold? Because what's happening there is you're seeing people buy up blocks of tickets to then resell. They don't always resell them. But I was told this by someone, I don't know how true it is, but I'm sure this is happening somewhere. Notre Dame would buy blocks of tickets if there was tickets left over to give away to people in order to keep their sellout streak going. Now, again, I don't know if that was true or not, but I know that there's people that do that. I don't know if Notre Dame is, but I know there's people that do that. So I've seen it's a sellout here at so-and-so, and I'm like, that's a sellout? Well, a lot of people apparently didn't come, even though they bought tickets. So I would be, and maybe they are, it's the same then and now. I just would like to see somebody do a study. Is this just the number of tickets sold, or is this the number of people that are actually showing up to the stadium? Because I've been to a couple Notre Dame road games where they've said the attendance was this, and I'm like, no, it wasn't. I was there. There were 10 to 12,000 empty seats. There's no way that, you know what I mean? So I'm not quite sure what that is, but I would be curious to see somebody kind of bring that up.
Yeah,
I would. That'd be an interesting thing to learn. But that was a good question, Muhammad.
Getting into part 2 of the Irish Breakdown podcast, brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. It's a Friday free-for-all mailbag, and getting us kicked off in part 2, we have James Mertz. What tools do you look for in a player that allows him to be a better fit at nickel?
You want to take a crack at that, Trev, since I've been talking for the last 20 minutes?
Yeah. I mean, me personally, good feet, good hand discipline. I mean, I know some of that you can just find in really just cornerback play in general. Nickels, and this is more of a personal preference, I don't love them to be I like my nickels to be a specific build. I don't think it's a mystery that Notre Dame hasn't gone out into the portal to sign nickels that are 6'2", 6'3" guys. They're always in that 5'10" to 6 foot range. And Thomas Harper being the bigger one of those guys, Devontae Smith being on the bigger side, Jordan Clark being a little bit on the smaller side. But the tools, good open field tackler, that's something that absolutely has to be present at the nickel position. Jordan Clark was a very underrated open field tackler. We obviously know what Thomas Harper was able to do. Devontae Smith, I think, different sample size because he didn't play all 12 regular season games. I think he ended the year with 2 total missed tackles. And I can tell you for sure there were more than 2 total missed tackles against Texas A&M when Devontae Smith was not playing at the nickel position. I can guarantee you that. So open field tackling, really good feet, good hips. Those are some of the tools that I look for big picture for the nickel. Size isn't really a big thing for me there. It's just a different type of position than what you look for in a boundary corner. So those are kind of my big picture takeaways. Brian, what about you?
Yeah, I think playing in space is a big thing. I think that's obviously a very important aspect of this. I think that you have to be physical. Even if you're not super strong, you've got to be physical. You've got to have some range because you got to play to the sideline. I think you nailed the tackling part. You don't have to be a great cover guy, but it's better if you can play some man defense, which is why we've seen Notre Dame in the last couple of years go with more of a corner at nickel as opposed to a safety at nickel. But tackling is important, like you said, Trev. That's absolutely taking on blocks. Block destruction is important. You got to be really smart to play nickel. Like, it is a high football IQ position, which is partly why Jordan Clark was so good at it, despite not being a real big guy, despite not having great speed, things like that, you know? And so I think those are all aspects of why that is like those. I'm trying to think of like how to say this. Those are very important aspects of being an effective corner in the Notre Dame defense. In other defenses, it's not as important. You know, you need a pure cover guy, or you need a pure, level 2 run defender zone guy. If I'm playing a lot of zone, my nickel is going to probably look a lot different than if I'm playing more man. If I'm playing a lot of zone, I want a nickel that's longer, taller, presents more hook curl issues for the quarterback. Like when Mike Elko was really coming up with his 4.25, remember when he was at Wake, he had like Thomas Brown at nickel, and he was like 6'4". Jeremiah Wusu-Koramoah was only 6'1", but had really long arms. You had Drew Tranquil at Rover in that position. So it required a different skill set. If you're going to play a lot of man, I don't really care about length. I care about, can you run and cover? And so part of that too depends on what you're looking for. But in the Notre Dame defense, that coverage ability is pretty important. But you can't have a guy who only covers. If you can cover, great, but you can't take on blocks and get off blocks and get to the football, you're going to be a terrible nickel in most defenses. But even the Notre Dame defense, which asks to cover more.
Yep, absolutely. Dirtbag Jake, what reasons for change for Mukam? Coaches putting their foot down and saying we need to keep this kid and having Mike Martin get out of their way?
I can't speak to that. Look, all I know is that Notre Dame is trying to convince Armel Mukam to come back, and that's really all I can say on that at the present time. I don't believe that. I don't know who is the driver for that, but what I can say is I do believe Mike Martin has been leading the negotiation to try to get him back. So I don't think that's a sign of Mike Martin getting out of their way. Now, maybe let's just say hypothetically that Mike Martin made a mistake and that's why Armel Mukam's leaving. Let's just say hypothetically. Let's say that the coaches wanted Armel back and Mike Martin decided, hey, I'm going to give him a pay cut anyway. And that's why Armel left. Just say, for argument's sake, for hypothetical sake. And then, he went back to the coaches, and the coach was like, hey, man, like, what's going on here? We want Armel. And then Mike Martin says, oh, that was a miscommunication. Let me go get him back. I mean, there's a lot of things. Maybe they said we want him back, and he said no. And now that they're missing on guys, he's trying to, now salvage things and go get him back. There's so many different scenarios that could be in play here. I don't really care to get into that stuff right now. What I care about is I don't care what you need to do. You need to get Armel Mukam back. Simple as that. And especially since he was flashing at the end of the season, Trev. And he didn't play a whole lot last year. Well, no, he didn't play a whole lot last year. But I'll give you some numbers. Armel Mukam only played 69 snaps last season, Trevor, which first of all is a problem in and of itself.
I'm about to say.
Armel Mukam should have played more than 69 snaps last year. But in the first 8 games of the year, he played 15 snaps, had 0 pressures in those 15. What did I say? 15 snaps, and only had 1 run stop in those 15 snaps. In the last 4 games, beginning with Navy, and these weren't all blowouts because he was I think in the first quarter of the game, he was on the field against Navy, I believe, maybe second quarter, but it was early. In the last 4 games of the season, he played 54 snaps and had 4 pressures and 3 run stops. So little bit of numbers for you. And I did some math on this. If he would have played the same number of snaps as Jared Dawson and kept his production the way that it was, for the season, if my math is correct, Trevor, he would have had 27 quarterback pressures because he had 4 pressures in the last 4 games on only 27 pass rush snaps. So if you go back and look at what Jared Dawson did last season and the performance that Jared Dawson had, who I think you and I would agree was Notre Dame's best best D tackle last year. Would you agree with me on that, Trev?
Yeah.
Okay. So if he had the same number of pass rush snaps that Jared Dawson had, Armel Mukam would have had 27 pressures, which would have been second on the team. 1 behind Bryce Young, 1 ahead of Donovan Hinish, and only 4 behind Boubacar Traore, and he would have had over 100 fewer snaps than Boubacar Traore. If you look at his run stop numbers, he had 3 run stops in the last 4 games on, let's see, he played 14, 17, 27 snaps. If he would have had the same number of run game snaps as Jared Dawson had last year. So let's see, where is Mr. Dawson here? He had 141 run stops. He would have had 16 run stops last year, which is not a great number, but a good number. Still would have ranked him 6th on the Notre Dame defense and would have ranked him second on the defensive line behind only Boubacar. He would have had 16 run stops. Jason Onye had 13. Jared Dawson had 10. Elijah Hughes had 15. The only D lineman that had more was Boubacar at 26. So if he just played the same number of snaps as Jared Dawson and produced the level he produced, now there's a lot of caveats to that. In some of those games, he's going against second-team offensive lines. I'm not trying to act like, see, he should have been their starter. I'm simply giving you some context for the performance that he had in the last 4 games. He showed quickness, he showed disruptiveness, he showed playmaking ability. Now, can he translate that to a starting situation? That remains to be seen. Can he be a more consistent player? That remains to be seen. But the talent is such, and I know that the former defensive line coach felt that way, that there's some talent there. And so I think it was a mistake to let him go, and I think that they should try to bring him back. So that's kind of my 2 cents on it. And right now I'm not I don't have a desire right now to publicly talk about who messed this up or that up. I don't care. Let's see what they finish with, and then we can tell that story at the end of the day. And I don't care how you get it. Armel Mukam coming back next year is an important thing for me. I don't care how it happens. I just think it needs to happen.
Solves a lot of your problems along the interior. All hands on deck to get Armel Mukam back on campus. I'm with you.
Yeah. Agree. All right. Let's get to some more questions.
From Tavis McKay, since the Lou Holtz era, if you could pick for each position a year of players and a position coach since then to make a full roster, what would that be? No pairings that actually happened.
Oh boy. If you could pick each position a year of players and a position coach since then to make a full. Okay, so quarterback. Quarterback's coach, Matt LaFleur.
Yeah.
Do I have to have the position coach from those years? Or do I can just pick any position coach?
Probably any position coach, okay. I would assume.
So I'm going to have Matt LaFleur, who was the quarterback's coach in 2014, will coach I don't know. Let's go Jimmy Clausen. I'm in a throwing mood today, okay? Running backs, Dylan McCullough will coach my 2025 running back room. The reason I say that is because I could go 92, but modern offense, I'm going to go with the modern running back room. But as soon as I said it, I'm like, God, I should have picked 92 with Jerome Bettis and Reggie Brooks and all that, But I'm going to be more of a throwing team. My wide receiver core, if I could pick any wide receiver unit, boy. My wide receivers coach, Urban Meyer, is my wide receivers coach. He was the wide receivers coach at Notre Dame. And my receiving core would be, because there's been years where they've had great starters but not great depth, and other years they've had great depth but not great starters. I'd probably go with 09, Golden Tate and Michael Floyd. Duval Kamara. I'd go with 09 and have Urban Meyer coaching them. That'd be fun. My tight ends coach would be Mike Denbrock, and my tight end room would be 2012 probably. Tyler Eifert, Troy Nicholas, Ben Koyak. That was a pretty good tight end room.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of years. You could go back in the early 90s. You had like Irv Smith, Oscar McBride, all on the same team together. But I like that unit. Offensive line's easy. 2017 offensive line with their coach from that season. You know what? No, I'm going to go 2017. I'm tempted to go 2015, but I think 2017 was even more dominant version of that group. D-line, give me the 2018 defensive line with, I'd have to think about that one. I forget the name of the 1988 defensive line coach. I believe he was let me look this up. Give me a second. I'm probably go with him. Give me a second. Let me find the coaching staff from 1988 because I'm drawing a complete blank on who their defensive line coach was that year. It's not listed. But I remember Notre Dame in 1988 had a guy coaching D-line who was considered a really good defensive line coach. Yeah, I can't find it. But somebody in the chat probably knows. But probably go 2018 D-line. That was a pretty loaded defensive line. You had 5 NFL players at defensive end. You had Jerry Tillery inside, Myron Tagovailoa most inside, Donovan Hinish, Jonathan Bonner. Probably go with that unit. So linebackers. I'd probably go with the 1988 group with Clark Lee coaching them. And secondary, Mike Mickens is the coach. I'd go with, you said it the other day, I'm going with the 2023 cornerback room. And my safety room is going to be, boy, this is a tough one. I'm going to go the 2024 safety room, but I'm going to make sure that I get Tay Johnson healthy and ready on that team too. But no, probably 2024 safety room with Xavier and Adon and, that group. But this year's safety room was pretty flipping good too.
Yeah.
It's a tough one.
Yeah, that is tough. I'll go, I guess, in the spirit of switching it up a little bit. I would go, I guess for quarterbacks coach, I'll put an effort in to try to give a different answer. I'll go Gino Guidugli with Brady Quinn. I'll pair them together. Running backs room, give me that one I can't go in a different route. Give me the 25 running back room with Dylan McCullough from 2024.
Because you never saw, you weren't born until 5 years after those guys played. So it's a much easier decision for you for sure.
Wide receivers, give me I guess I can't pick the 05 receiving core considering they played with Brady Quinn.
They're still pretty good.
Yeah.
05 before Rayma got hurt would have been if Rayma never gets hurt, I think 05 is easy.
Yeah.
Because I don't think Samardzija and Stovall were as good as Floyd and Tate, but you throw Rayma in there for a whole season as the 3, I love Matt Shelton. Not even Matt Shelton. I love David Grimes, but he ain't Raymond McKnight.
No.
You know what I mean? And then you just have Matt Shelton.
Yeah.
He would have been healthy 05 would have been easy.
I'll go. Yeah. Since we can't pairings that actually, since we can't go with pairings that actually happen, I'll probably go Guidugli quarterback coach with Brady Quinn from 05 with that 09 receiving core probably. Offensive line coach, you'll have to hear me out here. I'm going with Harry Heedstand with the 2024 offensive line because I don't think people would have been in the spots that they would have been in. And I'll just leave it at that. Defensive line. Honestly, based on their production, I would go with this the 2025 defensive line, they were ridiculously productive in 12 games this year. With, gosh, I don't know. Who was the defensive line coach that Notre Dame had that ended up going to Michigan like recently?
Mike Elston?
Yeah, Mike Elston. Probably give me them as a pairing. Linebackers coach. Give me Clark Lee with this linebacking room. Drake Bowen, Kingston Viliama-Asa, Jaden Osbury, Madden Faramo, Jalen Sneed. Yeah, give me all that. And then I guess if it's pairings that can't happen, I would have liked to have seen what Mike Mickens could have done with that 2019 DB room or 2018 DB room. He got his hands on Troy Pride a little bit earlier to help develop him. And then safeties give me, I guess, like Mike Mickens, and then I'll also make him my pass game coordinator with the 2019 safeties with Alohi Gilman and Kyle Hamilton. Yeah, I'd probably go that.
Yeah, no, Kyle Hamilton didn't even start on that team.
I know.
I mean, because you had Jalen Elliott as well. That's a good safety room. Yeah, that's a real good one.
We'll see.
That 2019 safety room was pretty darn good.
Yep.
Alohi Gilman, Jalen Elliott, and Kyle Hamilton, that was pretty good.
Yeah.
Very good.
Like Kyle Hamilton didn't start and had like 6 interceptions that year or something crazy.
What's the second game of the year? He has a pick 6, right, against New Mexico? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. From James Mertz, assuming the current Notre Dame roster and you had the opportunity for a Joe Alt at left tackle or Jeremiah Smith at wide receiver, which one do you take? And yes, Rudolph has to play Alt at left tackle.
Then that's my answer. Joe Alt at left tackle. Yes. Because he's going to move Anthony Knapp to a starting spot. I mean, think about this. I love Jeremiah Smith. Great player. I watched him go for 9 catches for over 150 yards in a game, and they scored 14 points against Miami because they couldn't run the ball. And I watched Miami win that game with Malachi Toney having like 5 catches for, 16 yards in that game. That's not even a great run average per carry, much less reception yards per carry. You know what I mean? Give me Joe Walt at left tackle and Ashton Craig at left guard, Anthony Knapp at center, Charles Jagasaw at right guard, and Kirby Lambert at right tackle, and I'm going to be a pretty happy dude. It's a great offensive line.
It's a nasty offensive line.
Yeah.
That is a nasty offensive line. That one's tough. I'd probably lean Joe Walt.
Yep.
Yeah. Ugh. I guess where it comes down to for me is I think that the offensive line, like the current Notre Dame roster, has an offensive lineman closer to Joe Alt than what the current receiving room has to a Jeremiah Smith. That's where my hang up is, because that's what's tough. Yeah, I think I just convinced myself to take Jeremiah Smith. I'll take Jeremiah Smith at wide receiver, matched up with this current roster. That's probably what I would go.
Young people always devaluing offensive lines. I'm just kidding. All right, here's a good one.
From We Are Happily Independent. With a new D-line coach, can we expect changes to the scheme, or are we still going to be using the linebackers to get pressure?
I don't know why people keep saying this, to be honest with you. I really don't. I'm going to say again, and I want y'all to hear me. According to Pro Football Focus, Notre Dame's defensive line produced more pressures than any other defensive line in college football. Like, I don't know how many times I got to say this. Under Al Golden, this was true. Under Chris Ash, that was true in the first 3-4 games, but it was not true the last 8 games of the season. So, if anything, if they start blitzing the linebackers more, that's going to be a very disappointing thing for me to see. I have concerns that he's going to be more linebacker driven, because when him and Chris Ash coached together at Wisconsin, the linebackers were the big producers of tackles for loss. Well, I shouldn't even say that I'm concerned. It could happen. But at the end of the day, so what? As long as it works. Like when Charlie Partridge at Wisconsin, before Chris Ash arrived, J.J. Watt, the D-line, were putting up monster tackle for loss and sack numbers. When Chris Ash arrived, they didn't put up monster numbers. The linebackers did. They had a linebacker one year that had 19 and a half tackles for loss. It was also a very different defense. It was more of a big boy. You remember the defenses that Wisconsin used to play.
Oh, yeah.
When Charlie Partridge was at Pitt, it was his D-line that was dominant. There was, I think, 3 different years where he had 2 defensive linemen in double-digit tackles for loss. There was a 4-year stretch where Pitt was like top 10 in tackles for loss and top 3 in sacks, like every year. So I don't know how Chris Ash is going to use the defensive line. All I care is that it's aggressive and disruptive and attacks. You can be a successful defense with having your linebackers be your primary pressure people. Or they weren't even primary last year. A primary, it's important that your linebackers are attacking downhill.
Yeah.
You can be successful with that. Al Golden did that last year and in 2023. You can also be a defense that's built around your defensive line being dominant. Notre Dame was that way in the last 8 games of this year, and Miami's been that way this season. Ohio State was that way last year. This year, they brought Arvell Reese more as a pass rusher than they did last year. It's not about this scheme is the only one that works. Being defensive line, disruptive and tackles for loss and sacks is the only way to go. Well, that's my preferred style, mainly because as an offensive coach and as a quarterback, I would rather your linebacker blitz than that big 6'4", 320-pound guy come at me, because now I can't throw behind the linebacker when that D tackle is getting in my face. But I have also seen a lot of teams that don't do that, and they're very good on defense. Whatever you do, do it aggressively and do it with discipline and do it with sound technique. That's what I care about. Do I have a personal preference? I do. Does Chris Ash have a different personal preference? I think so. But as long as it's aggressive, they're disciplined, their assignment correct, and they play with great technique and aggressiveness and in physicality, that's fine. It is what it is. But I don't know what they're necessarily going to do. But what I'm confident in saying is the Notre Dame D-line will be very well coached at whatever it is they choose to do.
And the sentiment wasn't true this past season. Still using the linebackers to get pressure. You can. That's an option out of the 200. And I'll say this stat again. Out of the 285 pressures that Notre Dame generated in 12 regular season games, 206 of them came from defensive linemen. And not players lined up as an edge rusher like Kingston or Jalen Sneed. I'm not counting those. From D linemen on the depth chart, 206 of their 285 pressures lived on the defensive line. They had 79 total hits plus sacks on the quarterback in 12 games. 52 of them came from the defensive line. That narrative is just not there. Notre Dame's defensive line continues to be one of the most underrated units in the country from 2025. They played really well down the stretch in the final 8 games of the season.
Yeah. Thanks. That's good stuff, Trev.
Thank you.
All right. Let's go to here's this one right here.
From Irish Dragon 23, what's the latest known info on how Notre Dame is handling its relationship with the ACC? Irish looking to go elsewhere with conference affiliation or stick with the ACC and Phillips?
Sans Phillips, I think that, what does that mean? Without Phillips? Look, here, I don't know. The last thing that's been, that's been public is that they met and that it was productive. Unfortunately, until proven otherwise, I have no faith that Notre Dame is going to do anything to really make the ACC pay for what they did, other than making them apologize. And then I just think they're going to keep going on. I hope I'm wrong, but we just don't have any evidence of it. Now, I don't know that we wouldn't have evidence if they were trying to do that, nor should they. Again, that's not the kind of thing I think Notre Dame needs to be telling us. That's a legal matter. They don't need to broadcast that. That's something, just deal with it legally and then announce it when it needs to be announced. unfortunately think that they're not going to do a darn thing other than just be mad and send some strongly worded emails and tell them how unhappy they were in their meeting, and then they move on and Notre Dame takes it, and then the ACC says, see, all we got to do is apologize. It's better to ask for forgiveness than permission because Notre Dame's not going to really do anything. Unfortunately, that's what I think is going to happen. Now, I've had some people tell me that, Pete Bavach was not happy about it, but that's one thing is to say, gee, what if we did this? It's another thing to say, we're doing this. And unfortunately, he has not shown that he'll do that. And that's not even an insult. He's only been on the job like 2 years. This is still kind of from a legal term, this is still kind of a fresh thing. Not a legal term, but from a legal standpoint, this is still kind of new. It takes time to pursue, what are our legal options, if they even are. But I've just come to the point with Notre Dame over the years that I'll believe they're more bite than bark when I see it. Because right now they're more bark than bite. And honestly, they're not even barking that much. I was, but Brady Quinn was, but Notre Dame wasn't.
Yep. From Sean Kelly, 1565, there are Twitter rumblings of James Smith, a defensive lineman from Bama, visiting Notre Dame. Your thoughts on him as a player?
I would not touch James Smith with a 10-foot pole. He is a very talented player. He hasn't done a whole lot at Alabama so far. But let's just, how do I say this? This screams of desperation for, oh, shoot, I've totally screwed up, so let's just try to get some big-name guys on campus. He hasn't done a whole lot for Alabama, and based on some of the things that I've been told, I'm just going to be nice. That'd be a pretty terrible fit at Notre Dame. I would also like to point out that he was Alabama's, and again, I'm not the biggest PFF fan, but when you're the 46th ranked player on defense out of 46, maybe they were wrong, but were they that wrong? I no thanks. I mean, James Smith this year had 11 pressures on 216 pass rush snaps. Armel Mukam had 4 pressures on 30 on 27. You know what I'm saying? Like, pass. Highly ranked guy, big name, hasn't done a thing. Hasn't done a thing for them. So, except be a very mediocre backup and a guy that I don't think off the field values the things that make Notre Dame Notre Dame. And I'll just leave it at that. I would not be – I'd say, look, they're adding a talented kid, but okay. Seems like a waste of time for me. Seems like maybe you're allowing yourself to be used by the agents. You know what I'm saying? To drive up the price for other people. That's kind of where I'm at. I'm sorry, this one just creeped up, and this is a great question. I'm jumping out of the bottom. I just saw this one pop up. Let's go to this one.
From Irish Lions, you have to wipe one player's career entirely from your memory. Brian, Brady Quinn, Rocket Ismail, or John Elway. Keep killing it, boys. Go Irish.
I love Brady Quinn. Brady Quinn's my dude, but if I had to wipe one away, it would be Brady Quinn. And the reason for that is because, I mean, Brady was great, but I don't want – there's 2 people whose memories I would never agree to have wiped from my brain, and that's John Elway and Larry Bird. Like, those are my 2 – like, when I was a kid, those were my 2 sports heroes. You know what I mean? Probably next on that list would probably be like Barry Larkin. That was my favorite baseball player for most of my life. Love Brady Quinn. I mean, he's my favorite Notre Dame quarterback, him and Tony Rice. But if I don't have Brady, I still have Tony Rice. I still have Jimmy Clausen. You know what I mean? Like, I still have some great Notre Dame players. There's never been another Rocket. So, I've said this, the closest thing I've seen to John Elway is Josh Allen. And John Elway was, you guys know my stance on that one. So I know that's rough. I mean, I don't want to erase any of them, but if I had to, I'd erase Brady because I still have some great Notre Dame quarterbacks that I can follow. There is no other Rocket. There is no other John Elway. That's my 2 cents. Thank you for that. That was a fun question. I like those. All right, let's get to some more here. Trev.
From Irish Dragon 23, are there transfer commits that may have signed with Notre Dame and just haven't announced? What's the logic for delaying an announcement like that?
Notre Dame likes to do things on their own timeline. That's number one. I mean, everybody knew a week ago that Charlie Partridge was going to be the D-line coach and Al Washington is going to be the linebacker coach, but they waited till yesterday to do it. I mean, it's just kind of thing. But the other more practical reason is you want to make sure that everything is taken care of. You want to make sure that all the admissions things are taken care of, that all the degree seeking decisions are made, that all the contract language is agreed upon and signed. You know, there are steps to this that are more than just signing your national letter of intent. That you want to make sure that all of that's done before making an announcement. I have no problem with Notre Dame waiting to announce certain things until it's a done deal. And I mean, like literally a done deal. Like we've agreed to terms. Yes. You've accepted this. Yes. You've agreed to do this academically. Yes. But until you get the okay from admissions, the okay from, you know, the different entities that you need to get those okays from, you don't want to put that out there. Could you imagine if Notre Dame announced that so-and-so player was committed to them and then 2 days later it's like, yeah, well, we couldn't get him through admissions. We jumped the gun a little bit. Or, you know, he decided last second to take a bigger deal from somebody else. Sorry. You wait till everything's done, then announce it. And so, like I said, if it's 2 days later than I would like it, whatever. As long as it gets done, that's the big thing. So it's not a complaint in this instance that Notre Dame is delaying announcing decisions because there's things that need to get taken care of before those decisions get signed. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah. This is the side of the process that you kind of have to do your due diligence on. I understand it. These are one of the things where as long as it gets done, I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
As long as it gets done, I can find out when I find out. I said the same thing about the quarterback competition last year. I don't care when I know as long as they know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's done. I have the same sentiment here.
Yep. Good question. All right. I'm going to see that. Here we go. Here's a good one.
From Adam Garcia, who would be your guys' top 3 players for Notre Dame to go after in the portal this year?
I mean, of the guys left on the portal, I mean, look, if I could have a dream portal, I did this and I should probably tweet it out, but I kind of did sort of like an ideal finish type of post on the board. And I mean, if you could say 3 players, okay. Armel Mukam coming back doesn't count because he's still a Notre Dame player. If you could have 3 players that Notre Dame could get, and I can only get 3, I'm going to take Keon Keeley. I'm going to take Francis Brew. I was told that it's pronounced Brew. Got that message from somebody. And I'm going to take Quincy Porter from Ohio State. That would be the 3 that I would take if I can only have 3. Yep.
It's a good 3. Yeah, definitely.
That would be my ideal finish. I'm not saying they're going to get those guys. I'm just telling you that's who I'd like to get. That'd be my top 3. Anybody else you'd consider there, Trev?
Not really. No. I mean, I guess dream for what's left, I'd go Keon Keeley, Francis Brew, and then probably Quincy Porter.
Yeah.
Would probably be mine.
I dig it. All right. Here we go.
From Joe Mark 612, how much do you think academic fit is playing a part for the early misses, and do you think that Martin missed the pre-work on this, assuming it wouldn't be an issue?
I'll just say this. I don't think that the general manager and his staff were as prepared for this process as they needed to be. How about that?
That's fair.
And just kind of leave it there for now. I'll have more to say on this on the message board when it all comes out, but I'll just leave it at that. They weren't as aggressive as they needed to be. They weren't as prompt with communication as they needed to be. They weren't as diligent as they needed to be to make sure all their I's were dotted and T's were crossed. And we'll just leave it at that. I'll have you, because Trev, I know you watched him, and so I'll let you kick this one off. I'll read the question from Ryan Schulte. Thank you, Ryan. Can you give us a little breakdown of Francis Brew, maybe a recent Notre Dame D lineman who might be a comp? You want to take a crack at that?
Yeah, I don't know if I can come up off the top of my head who would be a good comp for him. I mean,
The guy that just left.
Yeah.
Jared Dawson.
Yeah, that's same body type, very similar body type. I mean, Francis Brew is 6'2", 280. Jared Dawson was like 6'2", 288 at one point. It was like slightly bit. He's more of the Howard Cross, Jared Dawson body comp than he is a
Francis and Francis is more beef in the biceps than he is in the stomach.
Yep, but he'd be a strong pickup. He has very, very strong hands. He's aggressive at the point of attack. Gets off blocks really well. He penetrates very quickly. He would be used similar to how you would use a Donovan Heinisch. Then you would he wouldn't be a plugger. I'm not going to use him like Gabe Rubio. But to Brian's point, it's very much similar to how Jared Dawson was used on this defensive line. So I like his game. He's like I said, aggressive at the point of attack, very strong. Like sometimes, again, Notre Dame fans get very wrapped up in size. Like they equate how good a defensive line can be based on size. And Francis Brew's size at 6'2", 280 is not going to blow people away because he's not, 6'4", 295. He's not built like Riley Mills, but he has the opportunity to be a very productive player. I like him, and I hope that they can close on him because he would 100% come in and help. Arguably, Francis Brew would probably come in and start, given the state of what Notre Dame's defensive line is right now.
So studying him going into the Pitt game, I mean, we talked about him in our breakdown of that game. That was their best D tackle. I mean, probably their best D lineman. And he was not the player I thought he was going to be when I looked at their, because first thing I would look at the depth chart, heights, weights, where a guy's from, and all that kind of stuff. I see a guy that's like 6'2", 280. I'm thinking, okay, he's going to be a really quick looping penetrator that, is good against the pass. But, and then you watch him, you're like, and he is that, but he's really good against the run. So like surprisingly good against the run, like powerful hands for a 280 guy, very disruptive, as you mentioned, really good penetrator, anchors very well. And he's only a sophomore, like true sophomore this year. And so that's why I say he reminds me a lot of Jared Dawson, because Jared Dawson this year was really surprisingly physical against the run, something he had not shown on film at Louisville. He was just a pass rusher. And so that's kind of how I see that one, Trev. I think he'd be a great fit. I mean, think of a thicker, stronger version of Howard Cross from 2023. It's another comparison that I would use that he would fit. I think he's more athletic than Howard was, more stronger at the point of attack than Howard was, but like similar how you'd use him. Very similar to how you used Howard Cross in 2023 during his All-American season. So that's how I would go about it.
Yeah. From Mark Avalone, not looking for names, but are you surprised there has been no offensive line portal losses? Could any offensive lineman cross over to defensive tackle?
I mean, could they do it and provide depth? Sure, but I mean, you didn't move Devin Houston to go be a scout team, second team offensive lineman because you thought he was going to be an impact player in your defense. Now, maybe the new coach looks at Devin as like, dude, I can work with this guy and give him back to me. All right, cool. Give him a shot. I like Devin Houston coming out of high school. But anybody else that would move would be moving for depth. They wouldn't be moving to help and play and be factors, in my opinion.
Agreed. I will say, to the first part, I am surprised that there have been no offensive line portal losses yet. Like none?
Very. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, again, there's still 5-6 days left in the portal. I think that there will be some guys from Notre Dame that'll jump in still. I don't know who they're going to be. But, yeah, I'm with you. That surprises me. Yeah. Yeah.
Very surprising. No, I'm not mad about it. It's just I would have assumed. Hindsight's probably always 2020, but if we would have talked before the portal opened, like, second to last week of the regular season, if you would have asked me what room was going to suffer the most casualties in the portal up to this point, I would have not thought it was the defensive backs.
Mm-hmm.
I would have thought it was offensive line just due to numbers.
Well, yeah, I would have guessed offensive line because not only that, they're bringing in 6 guys, which is similar. Like I would have anticipated a lot of DBs being gone because there's other young guys like that. Junior class has already been surpassed by the rising sophomore class. Minich and Tabron, those guys have already got passed up. I'm not shocked that Cree's leaving. I'm not happy about it, but I'm not shocked by it because he sees what's coming in. And he's already third of the 3 freshmen that he came in with. Should not have, pushed Jadon Blair out. I still think that's a mistake, but that didn't surprise me. It's that we haven't seen that on the O-line has been a bit of a surprise so far because they've only lost 2 offensive linemen so far, and those were both to the NFL draft.
Mm-hmm.
So, that surprises me a little bit, to be honest with you.
From Ryan Schulte, do you prefer the current time for the portal now, or would you prefer a portal window only in the spring, or do you have alternatives?
No, I think this portal window makes the most sense. The reality is the calendar in college football is such that you can't have an NFL calendar because, unless you just want to stop pretending that they're students, which I don't want to. I want them to actually go the opposite direction. I want them to demand more that these are student athletes, which is why this whole, player freedom thing is so stupid and go to a different school every year. How's a kid going to graduate or even get any kind of continuity of education? He's not going to have the same counselor. He's not going to have the same advisor. He's not going to have the same academic support, and it's just like, it's go create a semi-pro league or go create an NFL minor league if you want that. Like this is still supposed to be a bigger thing, and I'm not going to go my soapbox again. I said that yesterday, but if you go into this post-spring, then you go through all spring ball, you invest all that time in developing all those players, and then they all leave. I'm not a big fan of that. So I think now's the window that makes sense, honestly. And I think they're doing the best they can with the unique nature of the calendar of college athletes. I'll go back and say it again. If you only had a one-time portal thing, you'd see this change because how many guys have you seen transfer somewhere and they have those stupid graphics from On3 and Rivals and 247 and that where they've got like the school he's committed to and then like the 3-4 schools he's been at before,
Yeah.
So
you got guys like TJ Finley who are on like their 7th school.
Malachi Nelson's going to his 4th school. He's leaving UTEP. He's been at USC, Boise, UTEP. It's like, this is a joke. It's an absolute joke. You're not pro player when you're okay with that.
Yeah.
You're not at all. You're pro feeling better about you're pro virtue signaling and you're pro tapping into the revenue stream of those players. If you're an agent or a player, that's what you are.
Well, and the sad part is now you just have outlets and even other programs to a degree that are like leaning into it. There's major outlets that you can buy like a separate premium subscription for just portal access. There was a school, I'll have to go back and look. There was a school that rented out a whole house for their their base of transfer portal operations. So not only are they not doing anything to negate the fact that we're devaluing student athletes, they're leaning full bore into let's monetize this transfer portal stuff as much as possible. It's rough.
Agree. All right, we had some super chats pop up. And we got that one. And here we go.
Super chat from Tyler Evans. Appreciate you, man. What did you think of Xavier Watts' rookie season with the Atlanta Falcons? And I believe X has not hit his ceiling yet. Oh, it was spectacular. Selfishly, as a Bengals fan, I was really upset that they didn't take him. Reunite with Al Golden in Cincinnati. They need the safety help, believe me. But instead, they took Demetrius Knight Jr. in the 2nd round and Dylan Fairchild in the 3rd round. So, but he was fantastic. Finished the regular season tied 2nd in all the league in interceptions. If anybody watches Xavier Watts in college, I know that's not a surprise to anybody, but I think he was also really helped out by the fact that he got to line up similar to the benefits that a Don Schuler had in college lining up next to Xavier Watts. I think Watts benefited a lot from lining up next to Jesse Bates for the entirety of the season. Just another veteran safety, also in the lines of another player that the Cincinnati Bengals shouldn't have let go. different topic for a completely different show. But yeah, I thought it was fantastic. I agree with you. I don't think he's hit his ceiling yet. Still areas that he has to get better at. He has to get stronger as a tackler. Tackling NFL skilled players is just a different game than tackling a wide receiver at Stanford or tackling a wide receiver at Syracuse or heck, even some of the players that he saw in the NCAA playoffs last year. But yeah, he's very promising career in Atlanta, and hopefully they get a better head coach in there because they just fired Raheem Morris. Hopefully they get a better head coach in there to get him better off.
Yeah, I didn't watch him. All I could do is look at the numbers, and the numbers were very impressive for a rookie. And I'd see like the highlights on Twitter, like the pick he had against in the last game of the second to last game of the year, where he kind of he's sinking back, but then he reads the quarterback and then jumps the option route. I'm like, dude, that's vintage Xavier Watts. He's so good.
Yep.
And here's why he went to the third round, because there's not a combine test that shows that type of instincts and intelligence.
The value placed on the NFL combine has ruined a lot of draft evaluations.
Yes.
A lot. I mean, if you just take names away, you take schools away, you just say, hey, here's a guy that won the Bronco Nagurski Award, was a unanimous All-American, consensus All-American in back-to-back seasons.
At 13 picks the last 2 years.
13 picks and played for the College Football National Championship in 2024. Where would you draft him? But then you say, but that same player is also 6 foot tall and ran a 4.5 40 at his pro day. It's like, oh, his third round guy. It's like, nah, it's just not great. The emphasis put on the NFL combine has ruined a lot of draft evals.
Agree. I absolutely agree with that. Yes, that's very well said, Trevor. And that's been going on for a long time.
Yep. Super chat from James Delaney. Appreciate you, James. Thank you guys for everything that you do. How would you fix the college football calendar to make this portal time appear to make more sense?
I think the only thing you can do is move the season up a little bit. Like the finish of the season. So we talked about this, Trevor. So let me just pull up a January 2026 calendar. So you want to fix it? Here's how you fix it. Actually, I want to go December 2025. Excuse me. You end the regular season on what was Notre Dame's last game? Was it the 28th or the 29th? Do you remember? That last Saturday,
29th.
29th. And no conference championship games. They're irrelevant anyway. I mean, the team that's getting ready to play for the college football championship was not even in the top 2 of their conference. And in that conference, a team that was 7-5 did play and win that conference championship. So these are irrelevant anyway. The team that they beat to get there did not qualify for that league's conference championship game. I mean, think about this. 3 of the 4 semifinal teams did not even play in the conference championship game of their, conference championship. Indiana's the only one that played and won.
I mean, shoot, it was only 2 of the 4 last year.
Right. And matter of fact, did any conference champion win a game besides Indiana
this year?
Yeah. No. Georgia didn't win a game. Texas Tech didn't win a game. Duke didn't even play in it, and Indiana won.
Yeah.
And then Tulane lost. That's the other one. James Madison lost. So I just don't know that there's any value to that besides the bottom line, which is really no longer relevant anymore. So season ends last November of the season. Okay. Next week, college football playoff rankings come out. The next weekend, that first Saturday, December, Army-Navy. And that's the only game played that weekend, Army-Navy. And so then you've got 2 weeks off. And on Saturday, Friday, December 12th and Saturday, December 13th, you play your first round games. Then on December 19th and December 20th, you play your quarterfinal games. Then you take that next week off. You play your semifinal games on December 31st and January 1st. Or you can play them all on January 1st. And then the championship game is a week after that. So your season is over January 8th. So when the portal opens, there's only 2 teams left. I'm not a big fan of end the season on January 1st. I don't think you need to end the season on January 1st. I don't want one game being played on January 1st. I want lots of games being played on January 1st. So if your semifinals are being played, you play those games at 3:30 and 7, and then at 11 and 12 and 2. You've got a bunch of other bowl games going on. So I just saw a thing come up that said Notre Dame from the portal people. Carson Hobbs is going to Florida State, so good for him. But I think that's the thing. And then now, season's over with. Everyone but the two teams playing for the title can be doing stuff. But, like, listen, Trev, here's the deal. Indiana's having a great start to the portal so far while they're in the middle of the playoff. So that's kind of my thing is everybody's season's over with. You're jumping in the portal. There's only everybody but two team seasons over with. January 8th or 9th, 10th or whatever. Like, I would say maybe if you can try to make that game a Saturday. So maybe this year January 1st is on a Thursday, so your title game isn't until like the 10th or something like that if you want to give a little bit of time to have that. But I would just try my best to have it within like a 5-week win, 4 games in 5 weeks. That's kind of give me a nice little break in between the first round and the semis. And it's not even a full break. It's just to kind of get you to January 1. And that's how I would do the calendar. And then now everybody but Miami and whoever is done before the portal opens up. And then Miami and whoever they play, they're done in the middle of the portal window.
Yeah.
But they get plenty of work in, as Indiana has shown. They can get work in. Miami's been hosting guys. Ole Miss has gotten portal commitments while they're still playing. That's what you have a general manager staff for and a recruiting staff for. This isn't 20 years ago when the head coach and assistant coaches were having to pull double duty of being on the phone all day calling recruits while also preparing for games. I mean, you've got a role in this, but it's not like it used to be. That's what your GM and his staff spend all their time doing.
Right.
You know?
Right. Makes sense. I think that'd be a good calendar. I do. Getting into part 3 of the Irish Breakdown podcast, brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. It's the Friday free-for-all mailbag. And Michael S. is getting us kicked off with a super chat. Appreciate the super chat, Michael. Didn't Notre Dame lose their best opportunity for a national championship this year because of powerful running and adequate passing game?
Didn't Notre Dame lose their best opportunity for national championship this year because of powerful running game? No, I think they had a more than that. Michael, I love you, man, but good Lord, you can turn almost anything into a negative. Their quarterback ranked in the top 5 in yards per attempt and passer rating this year. Dude, I don't know what you want from me at this point in time. He was a second-team freshman All-American. The guy that was in front of him, team was ranked number 1 going into the Big Ten championship. Their running game is not powerful. It's explosive. It's not powerful. They lost their best opportunity because they couldn't stop Texas A&M. They couldn't tackle, and because their powerful running game was not there. The only reason they were even in the first game of the year was because of their passing game. So, no, the answer is false. There's a lot of other reasons why they lost their first chance. That ain't it.
Agreed. Another one from Michael S. Appreciate you. Feel next year's dependence on passing will not compensate for a lack of powerful runners. Your thoughts?
So what you're saying is it was not good that they had a powerful running game and an adequate passing game next year, and it's going to suck next year when they have a really good passing game and not a powerful running game. Like, you're literally saying the same thing, and both of them are bad. I don't. You tell me what works, Michael. And if anything, I watched yesterday's show. If anything, they're going to be more powerful running the football next year than they were this year. I'm sorry, Michael, but that's just no. Just no. Yeah.
From Aiden Benami, seeing that Carson Beck is, however, old, it really is crazy to think of how different an advantage it is to compete against 18 and 19-year-olds and how many spots and opportunities they're taking from high schoolers.
Carson Beck's a 5th-year senior.
Correct? 6 years. I think he got the
senior.
Yeah, because I think his freshman year was 2020. So 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 20. I think he's a 6 year.
Okay. I mean, look, there's been 6-year seniors before. BYU's been doing this for a long time. I'm not. Look, there are circumstances when kids should get extra years, and I support that. I mean, I'm not going to get into that. Like, I think that's one of the new narratives. Do I think that a team should be filled with nothing but 23 to 25-year-olds? Do I think kids should have, 6th, 7th, 8th years just because they played at JUCO so they can now play 7 years of college football? Basically, that's insane. But the Carson Becks are kind of rare. The reality is that what we're seeing now is also the remnants of the COVID season, because Carson Beck could take a red shirt in 2021 and then go into 2022 and still be a redshirt freshman because 2020 didn't count. So, that's not going to be the case after this year. The NCAA just denied Trinidad Chambliss his 6th year, which does not bode well for Jason Onye. But then at the same time, TJ Finley gets like a 7th year. Max Johnson's getting a 7th year. Like, there's no rhyme or reason to what they do.
No, that's my biggest issue with it, is there's no level of consistency as to why you do or do not grant a player extra years of eligibility. I've been seeing that a lot too, like the age thing coming into play quite a bit. People are talking about, one of the reasons why Indiana is a favorite on FanDuel to win the national championship is because the average age on their roster is 23 from like top to bottom. It is crazy to think about. I'm not going to lie and say that it's normal that a college team's average age in their starting lineup is 23 and the Miami Dolphins average age in their starting lineup is 25. That's a little wild, but
that's an extreme on both ends.
Yeah.
That's why the Dolphins suck. They're too young.
Yeah.
They need more veterans. It's yes, correct.
Yeah. That's the biggest thing. You can take any comparisons of extremes and look at it in a vacuum and then paint whatever narrative that you want to. But also, with that being said, there's also a difference between an 18-year-old in college and even a senior. Like, there's levels to everything, Iden. I get where you're coming from, but it's kind of the one-off. I mean, I get it. From Josh Buffo, the motivational business banker, is there a D lineman and wide receiver not yet in the portal Notre Dame is currently in on with a strong chance to close?
Not anymore. I don't know of anybody that's still playing that I think that Notre Dame is going to be able to close strong with. Those have all happened in the last couple days. Those guys have jumped in the last couple days. So I'm not aware of that. I'm not saying it's not happening. I'm saying I'm not aware of it. This is an interesting one from Josh.
Warm blanket or cool pillow?
Yes. Honestly, that's the ideal nighttime for me. A cool pillow and a warm blanket. I like to have, even in the winter, I'll have a fan on so my room's cold. And I like to get into a nice warm blanket, but I like to have a cool pillow. So, yeah, that's the ideal for me, buddy. So I'm going to say yes.
If I had to choose between one of the two, I'd probably take cool pillow. Because I can still sleep in somewhat of a cold blanket because my body heat will just heat it up. If I have a hot pillow, it's not just going to cool down if I lay on it. So if I had to choose between one of the two, I'd take cool pillow.
I can't separate between the two, Trev.
It's fair. They're both fantastic options for sleeping.
Here's one for you, Trev, because I've said this before. I don't really have a game day meal, but here, Indy Milton fan asks, thank you for the super chat. What's your pick for the football game meal? Nothing beats wings, in my opinion.
Yeah, wings are a solid choice. If I go to a sports bar to watch a game, I'm always going to order wings. If I'm at home, I'm probably doing pizza and buffalo chicken dip. I'm a big buffalo chicken dip guy.
You make it at home. You make it, don't you? Like, don't you make kind of your own? That's what I thought.
Yep. So that's probably what it would be for me. Now you can make my wife is a big wings person. Like, I love wings. I don't want to paint the picture that I don't, but whenever we order pizza, she always wants the wings, and it's kind of a package deal. So can't go wrong with wings, but when I'm at home, that's what it is. But if I go to a sports bar with like a couple of buddies to sit up at the bar and watch the game, I will always order wings. I'll never order pizza.
Dig it.
From Brandon L. Gilbert, was Reggie Bush a silent commit to Notre Dame?
I've heard this pop up recently. I've never heard that before. I know that Notre Dame was recruiting him, but I've never heard that he was a silent commitment. Did he say that in a show or an interview or something recently? Because I've never heard that before. I know that he was being recruited by Notre Dame, and I knew he could get into Notre Dame, but I never heard that he was a silent commit to Notre Dame. Maurice Claret was, but I've never heard that Reggie Bush was. So, Brandon, if you're still watching, I'd be curious, where's that coming from? Like, I would be curious to see who's saying that. Like, because like sometimes you'll see these revelations come out and you're like, wow, I had no idea that was the case. You know what I mean? Like, I had no idea that Will Howard wanted to commit to Notre Dame, but they were, so yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah, I didn't know that either until that story came out.
Yep. So yeah, I honestly don't know. It's a great question. Great question.
Sidebar, Greg in the chat, I saw that you asking about Ale Emporium. That place rocks. I just had to throw that out there. That place is fantastic. I love their wings. That? It's in Fishers. They have a location in Fishers, one down in Greenwood. It's a sports bar, but their Ermanaki boneless wings are fantastic. Oh, they're great. Thank you, Greg. I might go get some of that this weekend. Johnny from the boot. Do you think the Peacock documentary causes a lack of PR? What is one thing you would ask of Notre Dame to fix the PR problem?
I don't think that has anything to do. I mean, it shouldn't have anything to do with it. If they think that we don't need to do these things because we're going to be releasing the documentary in December and January, then they're just not good at their jobs. I'd be shocked if that's what they were thinking. I would blow my mind.
Yeah, because the documentary is supposed to be behind the scenes of like football operations, not how they handle their media. Like that's
right.
Yeah. No, I don't think I'm with
and
you.
It's great. I love those type of things. I love those after the fact, behind the scenes looks at the season. I think they're awesome.
Yeah.
I would do it every year if I could, if they were willing to do it, I'd do it every year. I think those things are great. You'll never hear me say it's not fair to us that they do those things. No, I think those things are great. I have no beef with those. I think those are awesome. And if, there needs to be more. What's one thing I would fix is just more access and all that entails. And it's kind of sweeping, but that's what I would say.
Yep.
And to the program and to coaches, not necessarily the players.
Yeah. I would just say on a PR front, be more proactive.
Yeah.
Again, in every sense. But I'm with you. I love those documentaries. It humanizes people that we put up on pedestals.
Yeah.
It's like we think of college athletes, we think of people like Marcus Freeman. It's like they are still people. Like he does still have a family and kids. Like to us as fans, it's very easy to just be like, just go do your job. You're the coach. It's like, so he's just never supposed to see his young kids or his wife, and because we need something as fans.
Yeah.
I like seeing those documentaries because it's like, it humanizes them a little bit. Like we think of college athletes of like these just premier guys, and to a degree they are, but they're also still like 19. Like they're figuring stuff out. I like stuff like that.
Yeah, it's like, did you watch? Was it Amazon Prime or was it Netflix? They had the thing on the SEC. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, that was Netflix.
Oh, it was great. I love that. I mean, I love those kind of things. The 30 for 30s. I wish ESPN didn't stop doing that. That stuff's great. But yeah, I just that like for example, this is a small thing and people probably think it's dumb, but like Marcus Freeman would come on our show. He went on Chris Zorch's show. He'd go on other shows when he was a defensive coordinator at Notre Dame. But yet I can't get his assistant coaches on our show. Why? So things like that. That's where I'm coming from. Now there's a time and a place. Like, hey, it's Friday before the USC game. Hey, can I get Mike Denbrock on my show? No. And you're an idiot for asking. You're right. I am. I'm pretty dumb. You know,
come on, it's our Friday free-for-all mailbag.
Exactly. He can't come on the mailbag with us. What's the deal? What has he got better to do? Flying with the team out to down to Texas, and he can. You got internet on the plane. It's and I that's my thing is like you've got to be careful when you're Notre Dame because there's so many outlets now. And so they're like, well, we can't grant access to you because then he's going to have to go on this podcast. Then make rules saying like you have to have at least 15,000 subscribers for, to be able to have a coach or a player. You know what I mean? Something like that. You can set rules so you don't have to let them go on everybody. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. And it does not every coach like, hey, you get a coach. So there's things you could do. Yeah, exactly. There's things you could do to I'm just trying to think like there's things you can do to where you give people enough access that they're happy, but you're not giving them access to where it's going to be detrimental to your program. There's like one thing I don't like. I would love to be able to go to practices during the season. Love it. And I would handle it well. I wouldn't be leaking stuff. Like it'd be awesome. I would tell Marcus Freeman, you're insane if they said, we're going to start letting people come to our practices during the season. I was like, dude, you're nuts. Do you know how many headaches that's going to cause? Because some moron who wants 1 million Twitter clicks is going to go put your tight end, trick play that you're working on in pregame out there. Well, Notre Dame ran 2-point, conversions today, and here's what they did. They lined up this guy here, and they motioned to this, and they did this. You know what I mean? Like, man, Notre Dame threw a lot of post routes today. Well, you know what I mean? Like, I'd say you're nuts. Like, that's your time. And there needs to be your time. There needs to be time where it's not us there, and they're dealing with this, and they're dealing with that. I'm not someone who thinks we should have access all the time. But you can give us more than 2 practices. Like for example, we get like 6 or 7, 30-minute accesses in the first. And I'd say, look, give us 3 full practices and press conferences, and that's it. Like instead of this little 20-minute stuff. And then you put out videos from practice every day.
100%.
And it can be interviewing players. It can be highlight video. There's so many different things. Here's a spotlight of today. Like Drake Bowen did this thing where he went and bought the jerseys for his high school baseball team. Did you hear about that?
No, that's dope.
Yeah, exactly. Did you hear about that? I'll repeat again. Trev, who follows Notre Dame's football page, did you hear about that on Instagram from Notre Dame or from, you know what I mean? Why? I saw them hyping up a kid from Ohio State that did that. You know what I mean? Like, you should be doing that. So there needs to be a better balance between we need our time as a team, and then we'll make sure that you guys have access so the fans don't have to go 3 weeks with nothing in fall camp. And then we're like, how did you not know Notre Dame was not going to be prepared for Miami? Well, I hadn't seen them practice in 3 weeks. That's how I didn't know what they would do.
Agreed.
And no one will talk. People won't give you info anymore. It's fine. I mean, so that's kind of where I'm at.
I would love 3 full practices. I mean, for me, selfishly, it's like driving 6 hours round trip in a car for a 20-minute practice is just not worth it.
Yeah.
Like, that's what's unfortunate. I would love 3 full practices. That'd be great. From Jimmy James, although I think we were good at running back, Justin Haynes is in the portal. Does Notre Dame have a look?
No. Justice Haynes is a very good player. They don't need another running back.
Agreed.
They don't need to pay money for another running back. And he's a very good player. Maybe he's their best running back next year, but that's a maybe. He's their most experienced, but that's a maybe. He's a good player. Don't get me wrong. I like Justice Haynes. We talked about how that was a sneaky good pickup for Michigan this year, and it was until he got hurt.
Yeah.
But no, Yeah.
Another one from Josh Buffo. In your opinion, will Notre Dame have a boundary wide receiver 6'5", 220 pounds or bigger?
No. 6'5", 220. Like, there's not even anybody on the radar that's left on the radar that's that, Josh. I think Quincy Porter's like 6'4", 215. That's the biggest guy on the board. Reed Harris was close to that size, but he's not on the board anymore. So, no, they won't.
Super chat from Michael S. Appreciate you, Michael. Clarification, because we had great running and good passing, we had a better opportunity to win a national championship this year than we will next year.
This makes more sense. Thank you for the clarification, Michael. But no, I don't. Well, let me say this. With no other context, this could be correct. With no other context of how good's the defense, just how good is the passing game? Who are they? Are they going against teams that don't have great, that have great rush defenses but not great pass defenses, or vice versa? You could make the case. I think that the entirety of the roster is you're going to have a really good running passing game. You should have a really good passing game next year. But I don't accept the notion that the running game is going to be worse next season. It won't be as dynamic because of the running backs. But it's like this. If the offensive line is better and the running backs aren't as good, the result will be about the same. Sometimes maybe even a little bit better. That, like Tony Jones Jr. averaged like 0.7 more yards per carry in 2019 than Kyron Williams did in 2020 or 2021. Does that mean that Tony Jones is a better running back than Kyron Williams? Or were there circumstances where they played a softer schedule? They were a more dynamic throwing team in 2019 than they were in 2020. You had Chase Claypool. You had Braden Lindsey, who was a big play guy that year. You had pretty, some pretty darn good weapons there in 2019. You had Cole Kmet, and in 2020, your best tight end's a true freshman. You've got Javon McKinley and Ben Scarana. I mean, it was a different team. So I just think as a collective, I think that if you're here and then here, you're kind of still here, but without the context of all the other things that would help me define how good the team is going to be. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's kind of my answer.
Well, I mean, to your point, kind of to continue putting it into words, who's to say they don't have a great passing game and a good run game next year? Mm-hmm. It's not all playoffs are created equal. The thing that I always have to remind people of too is not every year of college football is created equally. We saw that this year with Notre Dame. In 2024, they started off in the playoff rankings at 10th and worked their way all the way up to 5th. This year, they started at 10th and ended at 11th. It's different. And won the same amount of games in between those times and arguably looked more dominant in this year than they did last year. Mm-hmm. And college football, the landscape of college football is different year over year. So there's so much context that's needed for this. It's tough to – yeah, exactly.
Right here. This is it. Teams won't be loading the box as much and the line should be better. So the run game – like there's a world in which the run game is just as effective, if not more effective from a stat standpoint this year. Like if the offensive line is as good as it should be, I won't be shocked if Notre Dame's run game efficiency is better next year than it was this year. Does that mean that the running backs are better than Jeremiah Love, Jadar, and Price? Not necessarily. That's where I'm from. Where I'm coming from. And Brandon Gilbert did follow up to this, and he said somebody in his USC family, like in the USC family, told him that. Yeah, I had not heard that. I had not heard that.
From Jimmy James, based on reporting, 2 of the defensive tackles predicted to be real possibilities to Notre Dame are in the 280 range. Does this signify a shift in philosophy?
I can understand why you'd think that, Jimmy, but I don't necessarily think so. I just think that's a byproduct of who's on the board. As Trev and I talked about, Francis Brew is 280, but let's just say hypothetically they got him. And I don't know that they're going to get him. He's visiting Ohio State this weekend. And I don't have a lot of faith right now in this general manager and his staff closing. I need to see it to believe it on guys like this. But you watch him play, he's not a quick penetrator that's afraid of contact. You know what I mean? Like, he'll take you on. He's a strong kid. Now, am I going to say, hey, let's put him in a 4-eye technique and have him 2-gap all day in a 3-3 or a 3-4 defense? No, I'm not going to do that either because I'm not an idiot. But he can play big boy football when you need him to, right? Like, he's not Donovan Heinisch where, like, you want to try to avoid those type of scenarios with him because he's a lot lighter. He's got some really powerful hands. So, and his game is a lot different than Ezra Christensen, who's the kid from New Mexico State who had like 40 pressures last season, who's more of a disruptive pass rusher. Then you got to look at what's on the roster coming back. Elijah Hughes is more of that more stout run defender first, pass rusher second kind of guy.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to have Chris Burgess moving inside, who's already over 290, probably be 300 by next year, who's a big, strong kid. You've got Davion Dixon coming back at 320, Sean Sevillano coming back at 340. You've got, Tiki Hola coming in at over 300 pounds as a freshman. So I think it's these. I mean, one of these guys is kind of taken over for Donovan Heinisch. The other guy in this instance would be taken over for Jared Dawson, and they're very similar body types to those two guys. One's slightly bigger than Donovan Heinisch. One is slightly smaller than Jared Dawson. The average size of that duo would basically be about the same as the duo of Heinisch and Dawson were last year. So you're getting smaller because you're losing Gabriel Rubio. Like, these guys aren't being brought in to replace Gabriel Rubio. I think that's going to be a little bit of a tougher task. But the defensive line was still pretty good after Gabriel Rubio got hurt. And they were still pretty darn good after that.
Yep.
So I don't know that it's going to be a shift in philosophy, to be honest with you, but I wouldn't be opposed to it. I mean, I like an aggressive attacking defensive line.
Yeah.
And I think you got the linebackers that can protect it. But I don't think it necessarily means that. Do you agree, disagree, Trev?
Yeah, no, I get where you're coming from. It's just because you see the lighter weight doesn't mean that it's going to necessarily signify that shift. I get where you're coming from. But again, like I've said, with every stage of the transfer portal, you also have to remember who the remaining players are on the roster still. Davion Dixon is a massive kid. Sean Sevillano is a massive kid. Tiki Hola is going to be a massive incoming kid. Like, who they land in the transfer portal is not just who all of their defensive tackles are going to be for 2026. So that's where I'm at with this one. From Joseph B., what do you think of the Alabama defensive lineman and edge who entered the transfer portal as a package deal? Do you go out and get them if you're Notre Dame?
So that would be James Smith and Quay Russo. I personally would not. If they're a package deal, I would not. I don't have a lot of interest in James Smith as a player. Highly ranked, has some talent, hasn't been very good for Bama. I don't see the fit, and fit still has to matter at Notre Dame. It still has to matter. And if you don't understand that, you shouldn't be at Notre Dame. So maybe life circumstances have changed and he's in a better position now or whatever, but I just don't see that. I think there's better players that fit better than what you need. And for not just fit that, but fit what you need. I mean, again, James Smith was the lowest graded defensive player on the roster for Alabama last year. And he's a junior. You know, I mean, like you look at Keon and say, well, you know, Keon hasn't broken out either. That's very true. But Keon was a much more productive player last season, you know, for what he was asked to do. And, you know, obviously graded out higher and was more effective as a player. So I don't see the fit. And I don't think that is would make a lot of sense to me. But I haven't seen the reporting, but apparently it's being reported by multiple people that they're visiting today. I had another buddy of mine text me. He's like, I don't know that they were on campus long if they were on campus because they're supposed to be showing up here pretty soon to Missouri. And they're going to take other visits. So, and I had another person text me, it's a done deal. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know what to believe anymore. Because you know how many times I've had people text me, this is a done deal. They're going to get so-and-so kid. And then a day later, his agent tells people he's committed to Tennessee or, you know, wherever else. So I just think right now, I think they're scrambling. And I don't know that I don't trust a lot of what's coming out right now on this stuff. So that's why I keep saying, let's sit back and wait and see how it plays out. And I know that's hard for us, but just we're halfway there, right? We're halfway through the 2-week period. Let's just take a deep breath, let it play out, see who they get, and then we'll have plenty of time to talk about it.
From Brandon Gilbert, will Alabama's extremely poor showing in the playoffs hurt the committee's and ESPN's chances of pulling the same crap next season?
Nope, because they're both on the same page, and they both have the same objective. So, unfortunately, I don't think it will. I mean, did the SEC's performance last year in the postseason? I mean, look, Georgia, the best team in the SEC, got beat by 13. Another SEC team got destroyed by Ohio State. The third SEC team that got in won their first game over the team that was ranked like 14th, 17th going into the playoffs, had 3 losses. They beat the Big 12 champ by what? 2 points, something like that. What was the score of last year's game with Arizona State?
Oh, you're talking about last year. I was
Texas. Yeah, Texas.
I didn't know you were talking about last year. I was like,
no, because I'm like, because my point is like last year they didn't do very well. And then you go to the bowl season, Bama got beat by Michigan, South Carolina got beat by Illinois, Oklahoma got beat by Navy. Like, how was last offseason any better? How was last bowl season and postseason any better for the SEC than this one is? You know, like, it's the same. In the last 3 years, the SEC is 3-8, and the teams that are currently in the SEC have gone 3-8 in the postseason. Now, that's a little bit like, okay, one of those losses was an SEC team that at the time was in the Big 12, for full disclosure. That was Texas in 2023. But it's 3-7 in that time against non-SEC opponents. And the wins are over number 7 Arizona State, number 14 Clemson, and number 20 Tulane. So this year is not any different than last year, folks. And they're just going to say, well, hey, 2 of the 5 teams got knocked out by other SEC teams. And one of the teams got knocked out in a really close down to the wire game by Miami, who's playing for the title. They're going to give us that excuse. Because if last year's performance didn't tell people that we should not be hyping up the SEC, I don't know how this year's is going to change anything. Because, again, it's a rigged game. It's all about, ESPN controls the committee. They can say they don't. I don't see them broadcasting on Fox or CBS. I don't see any games being played there. They know who their daddy is. And ESPN knows who their daddy is. Or not their daddy, that's wrong. They know who their breadwinner is, and it's the SEC. It's not hard to figure out.
Nope. And I mean, is it going to be Alabama specifically next year? I don't know. Could be Texas. Could be Georgia, but it'll happen again.
Yep.
Johnny from the boot, with the $22 million limit for schools, do y'all know of already neglecting their other sports programs? And are we seeing the effect of this yet?
I honestly haven't paid close enough attention to that to know the answer to that, Johnny. I'm sorry. Trev, I don't know if you have either, but I have. And we're still kind of new to this. I honestly couldn't tell you.
No, I mean, the only sample size that I could even try to point to for it is, I mean, at one point in time, Tennessee's entire women's volleyball roster entered the transfer portal.
That's still nuts.
I mean, and I also know, and I'm drawing a lot of inferences here. I'm reading in between the lines and stuff because I also know that Tennessee is looking to be big spenders in the portal this year. I have no idea what that's going to look like for basketball, what it looks like for baseball. So, that's the one and only example that I could provide, but I think it's pretty loud. But I don't know if that's enough for me to say Tennessee is neglecting all other sports than just football. So, it's more so incomplete, Johnny.
Yep. Let's go to the next one. Here's a good one from I Am Tenzin.
Favorite superhero outside of the big 3? No Superman, Batman, or Spider-Man.
So can't use Batman, Spider-Man, or Superman. My favorite superhero outside of the big 3 is Captain America. That would be mine. And anyone that knows me knows I'm going to go with Superman and Captain America as my 2 favorite superheroes. Anyone that knows me and how I think about how I look at the world and all that kind of stuff. And all of you in the chat should know that Superman is my number 1 because I told you guys that I was Superman for 5 straight Halloweens as a kid. But if I can't pick him, Captain America. For sure.
My favorite outside of the big 3 is probably Iron Man. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love Iron Man. It's probably my go-to.
Yep. That was probably the better movie. I would say Iron Man was.
The first Iron Man, I think, was better than the first Captain America, but the Captain America solo trio movies were better than the trio of Iron Man movies.
Yes, agree. Winter Soldier was very good. But Civil War was kind of
It was
combo.
basically Captain America 2.5, Iron Man like
Yeah.
3.5 type of thing.
Right.
Yeah, I get you.
Right. I did not love. I didn't dislike Iron Man 2, but I didn't love it. And Iron Man 3, that's one of the few Marvel movies I haven't necessarily rewatched. I think I've watched it maybe twice.
Yep. That was the movie that ignited Kevin Feige to be like, hey, you guys got to keep in mind, like, we're not sticking true to like all comics. Yeah. I just didn't love that, the 10 Rings was kind of Tony Stark's like biggest, biggest arch enemy, I guess you could say, in the comics. And then they made it out to just be flat out a joke.
But then it wasn't when we saw, Shang-Chi come out. It's just, it was super lame. That was the dumb, like, that was like, wow, you guys, because I like Shang-Chi. I thought am I saying that incorrectly? Mm-hmm. Am I saying that correctly?
Nope, you got it.
I liked that, to be honest with you. But the Trevor Slattery thing was a little bit weird in that movie. I was like, oh, okay, I could have gone without that. Yeah. Notre Dame did, according to Matt Zenitz from CBS, Notre Dame has signed a portal pickup. I'll have more on this here in a little bit. We're not going to do anything about it during the show because I don't know enough about him. He's a cornerback from Colorado, DJ McKinney. So let me just put this on the board real quick. Colorado corner DJ McKinney has signed with Notre Dame out of the portal. So, yeah. I will do some digging into him, and we'll have a story up after the show, but just wanted to let people know that we are aware of that, and we'll try to dig into that as much as we can. So I've already sent a couple of texts out about people to find out a little bit about him, but I don't know a lot about him right now, so I can't really tell you a whole lot. So I can just tell you his numbers on Pro Football Focus. He held opponents to a 58.1% completion rate this season, gave up 2 touchdowns, had 1 pick, 4 pass breakups, and spent most of his time at corner, not the slot. So he was an outside corner. That doesn't mean he can't play nickel, but that's all I really know about him. So let me see if he's played much beyond this. He's listed at 6'2", 180. He'll be a 5th-year player. He was at Colorado for 2 years. He had a better grade in 2024 than he did this past year. Looks like he only played 9 games this year, Trev. Looks like he got hurt at the end of the year. And then he spent 2 years at Oklahoma State. So, and he's played over 1,700 snaps as an outside corner, only 92 snaps as a slot. And so that's right now all I know about him. So we'll have more here in a little bit. Was not a name that I had been given or knew anything about. So just wanted to give people a heads up on that. We'll have more when we learn more.
Right on.
So, yeah.
From CFB playoffs, what are Snead's NFL prospects?
Look, there's going to be things about Jalen Snead that the NFL really loves, and there's going to be things about Jalen Snead that the NFL is going to have some questions about. The biggest questions are going to be about, instincts, discipline. He still has a bad habit of jumping in the wrong gap, kind of playing, I'm going to go make a play. I think he got a lot better about that second half of the year. I do think that was something he got better. That was an area where he showed improvement second half of the year this year, Trev. But, I think that's what they're going to, that's kind of the question marks they're going to have is, what can he bring to the table from a every down linebacker standpoint? But what you're going to love is he's very athletic. He's a hard hitter, and he can play on any special teams you have because of that. Can he play linebacker? Questionable. And he's not the biggest guy either. Can he be a guy that's a major weapon on your special teams as long as he's got the right mindset on it? Yeah, he can. So that's the best I can tell you when it comes to NFL draft prospects. Those are going to be some of the issues that they're going to have.
Agreed. And I couldn't even tell you where he's projected to go or anything. Has he even declared yet?
No, I don't know that I don't know if he's coming back. He's going to the NFL. Is he? I think Kingston's injury probably increases the chances that he comes back next year, but I don't know what his plans are as of right now. He hasn't said anything.
From Bobby S., is Logan Thomas ready to take a step this offseason?
Well, yeah, he's capable, Bobby, of taking a step this offseason, but he's got to show it, Trev. I mean, you talk about this all the time. I got to see it. Look, Notre Dame's coaching staff has really been high on Logan Thomas the last couple of years. He's very athletic. He's very explosive. He's a lot stronger than you'd think a guy that's 215 pounds would be. And that's why he's been in the rotation as a freshman, but he was banged up last offseason, didn't play much in the spring, was banged up at times this season. And so that's kind of slowed his development a little bit. If he's healthy, then I think Logan Thomas is a guy that could do some things this offseason to prepare himself to be a force next year in some capacity. Now, can Logan Thomas be an every down player? He's going to have to weigh more than 215 pounds in order to do that.
Yeah.
But does he have a lot of other traits that you look at and say, this guy brings some tools that you can, again, who was on the field on the last play of the game against Georgia in 2024? It was Logan Thomas trying to get after the quarterback. Remember, he returned a fumble for a touchdown against Louisville when the game was in doubt, and they brought it back. Remember that, Trev, when he recovered the fumble and took it back? He was playing on the defense in a competitive game. So, but he was banged up a lot this year and got buried a little bit. And then, Boubacar, and part of that was too because you didn't have Boubacar, so he had to step into that role. This year you had Boubacar. Your defensive end position group was relatively healthy. Burnham, had some minor things going like early in the year, but you had Junior, you had Bryce, you had Boubacar, you had Junior, and then of course you had Burnham. They were pretty healthy there. And Logan, because he was not healthy, just had a hard time getting up there. He played a lot of special teams. So I hope Logan plans come back. I haven't heard anything about him not coming back, but I hope he can stay. He just needs a healthy offseason. I should have just said that. If Logan Thomas has a healthy offseason, I think he's going to be able to be a factor next year in some capacity.
100%. Can't spend more time rehabbing than developing. I'm with you completely. Got to stay healthy this offseason.
Yep.
Bobby S., what defensive tackle on the roster has the most upside potential, and what are the chances we get Mukam back?
Well, of the returners, that's the guy.
Yeah.
Him and Chris Burgess, I would say, probably have the most potential of the guys coming back. Elijah Golden is in that conversation of it when you start throwing in the freshmen. He's got a tremendous ceiling.
Yeah. Yep. I would agree on those guys for sure.
Yep.
From Domer since birth, gents, regardless if Indiana or Oregon wins, do they get the home locker room? I'd assume the U and Dolphins have their own locker rooms, but I assume one away locker room. Any insight?
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you're playing in your own stadium or not, and that's going to be a very interesting aspect to this as Miami's playing at home for the championship game, but they would be in the away locker room because they're the lower seed. So you don't get privileges of, well, we get our locker room because it's our stadium. You're still the lower seed. You have to play in the other locker room. Yeah. And it's not going to change anything either. They haven't played in that stadium in over a month, and it's not even their stadium.
I was just about to say, it's not like it's on their campus. Now, they don't have to get in a plane, and it's going to be a facility they're very familiar with, but yes, I agree. Getting into part 4 of the Irish Breakdown podcast brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. It's a Friday free for all mailbag. And we have our guy, Fitness and Family. I guess I can't say guy, but we got Fitness and Family getting us kicked off here in part 4. Question: if Notre Dame doesn't get anyone from the portal, does that really mean Notre Dame has no chance of winning at all next season?
No,
others are saying that, and I don't agree.
I agree with you. Will it make for a more narrow margin for error? Yeah, sure. I'm much more concerned about the defensive tackle depth chart, start top to bottom. And I'm concerned about the depth chart at defensive end behind your starters. But other than that, okay, let's roll. I mean, you're still going to have arguably let's just say one of the best quarterbacks in the country coming back. You're still going to have one of the better running back rooms coming back. You're going to have one of the most talented offensive lines coming back. You're going to have one of the most talented starting duos at defensive end in the country. You're going to have one of the most talented linebacker rooms in the country, and you're going to have arguably the most talented and deepest secondary in the country coming back. Will it be harder if your D-tackle room doesn't get addressed? Yeah. Does it mean they can't win at all? No. That's just doom and gloom from people that think that. See, here's the problem. There's some fans, and this is true for every fan base, where they look at trends and say, well, because they're doing that, we have to follow suit. Because they're winning because of the portal, we now have to win with the portal. And I just don't agree with that at all. At all.
No, Notre Dame's ability in the portal to attract top-level talent is not going to affect what their odds are going to be on FanDuel next season of where, if or when they're going to win the national championship.
Yep.
That's just how it is. Because as much as people want to sit there and say, but Indiana brought in this, Colorado brought in this, Oklahoma State brought in this, I can guarantee you those three other teams, and there's a long list of other ones in there, don't have a secondary like Notre Dame's coming back. They don't have a linebacker room like Notre Dame's coming back. They don't have an offensive line room that looks like Notre Dame's coming back. They don't have a CJ Carr coming back. It's just, you can spin it either way. Again, you can walk and chew gum at the same time. Does Notre Dame have to have success in the portal at defensive tackle? Yes. Do they have to have success in the portal at defensive tackle to be national champions? No. Like, that's where it is. Both things can be true. Notre Dame has one heck of a roster coming back. If they land nobody, I still think they have a top 5 roster, top to bottom in college football next year.
Agree.
And technically, they've already landed somebody.
But, like, that's adding a player to a position that you're already strong at. It doesn't solve any issues. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
So,
agreed.
Yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents. All right, let's go to this one from Tom.
From Tom Redinger, college football should move up their season to end January 1st. Part 2, championship game should be the Rose Bowl every year. In my opinion, a lot of the bowl venues aren't great, Atlanta specifically.
No. I mean, I don't know that. Yeah.
Yeah, I like rotating where the games are, because you also have to think of the financial impact for the cities that host it. I mean, Indianapolis hosted a national championship game, I believe, not that long ago, and it was electric here. They're like, I'm down for like conference championships always being in the same spot. I understand why that happens, but I don't think it should always be in the Rose Bowl. Like, let's think about it for this year. If IU wins tonight, a team from Florida and a team from Indiana just has to travel out to California for the national championship. Now, I know sometimes it's never going to work out as perfectly as you would like it to from a travel perspective, but I think it's great for different cities to be able to host. My push would be to get it more north sometimes. I mean, why not have more in Lucas Oil? Indianapolis is a great hosting city. Why not have it, where the Lions play? I'm just thinking of indoor facilities. Like, it doesn't have to be outdoors at MetLife. Minnesota Vikings play inside at M&T Bank Stadium. It doesn't always have to be down south.
Yeah. Agree. That's definitely something that needs to change, especially as you're seeing more and more teams from the north that are being dominant,
Right. James Delaney, would you like to see the Ravens hire Cignetti? I would love that. It would solve Notre Dame's issue with IU and give the Ravens a great coach.
What issue does Notre Dame have with IU? Like, here's my answer. No, I would not like to see that. Number one, if you can't beat Indiana and out recruit Indiana because they have Kurt Cignetti, then your problem is not Indiana. Your problem is you. Number one. Number two, Notre Dame beat Indiana in the only game they've played under Kurt Cignetti. No, number two. Number three, Indiana has to build, and I say it again, they have to build through the portal. What issue? Name me one high school recruit that Indiana has beat Notre Dame for. Name one recruit that's in their number 24 ranked recruiting class that Notre Dame should have had in their number 1 ranked recruiting class. Like, what's Kurt Cignetti's record against Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman? 0-1. Like if they go out and win the title, good for Indiana. I think, and the other reason too is Kurt Cignetti's good for college football. You may not like him, but to me, he's everything that I want to see in a head coach of what we can visibly see. Now, I don't know if he's having kids go to class, and I don't know any of that stuff. But here's what I know. The players love him. His coaches love him. I don't particularly care for him because we only get one side of him. And his teams, his kids are prepared on how to play the game of football physically and mentally at a high level. I don't hate that. I don't like him in interviews. I think he's kind of an arrogant you-know-what. But people that know him don't seem to have that opinion of him, and I don't know him. But what I know is he's a heck of a college football coach. And if you're to the point now where you're rooting for other good coaches to leave to make the Notre Dame path harder, I think that says a lot more about where Notre Dame is in your mind than the others. And I just don't. But I also don't agree that that's something that Notre Dame needs. I just don't.
I filed this under the same conversation that we were getting before the playoffs about what would Notre Dame's ideal path be. I want them to play Tulane, and then hopefully James Madison wins in the second round or in the first round, and then they can play them. And it's like, guys, like, you got to stop believing everything that you read on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Do I think that IU is a flash in the pan like people have made them out to be? No, I don't. If Kurt Cignetti's still there, I think he's here to stay. Do I think that they're going to start competing for Notre Dame for top 50 recruits in the country? Also, no.
Mm-hmm.
Notre Dame doesn't have an IU problem. And no, I don't. I'm not going to wish that a coach that's good for the sport runs off to the league to make things easier for Notre Dame. That's people buying into the narrative that Notre Dame kind of has to bend the knee to make things easier for them. I can't stand that mindset in general.
Yeah.
From Carlos Garza, always been curious, how is it that ESPN almost had a monopoly on college football? How come Fox, NBC, or CBS won't step up?
Well, they certainly have a monopoly on the college football playoffs. I mean, the only two games that they don't have are games they gave up because they're the two games that that they know they're not going to get good ratings. You know what I mean? So, because they're going against the NFL. So I don't know how that came to be. I don't love it. I don't think it's right. I don't, I think that we should have, much like the NFL has, where I don't know. I'm very curious about that. Yeah.
I'm not. Yeah. I mean, there's different takeaways you could say about all it because, ESPN has a monopoly on college football. But then, like, if college football was strictly on Fox, NBC, or CBS, it'd be like, how do those three main networks have a monopoly on, like, all of football? Like, it's just, I don't know, man. I'm curious about it, too. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I mean, probably because, like, the leadership in college football is easier to sway than the leadership in the NFL. That's probably one of them, if I had to guess.
Yeah.
From Red Bearded Eagle, grade your opinion on Notre Dame's interest and possibility of getting the following: Keeley, James Smith, Quay Russaw, Jarquez Carter, Mylan Graham, Quincy Porter.
I would absolutely be all over Keon Keeley. I would absolutely be all over Quincy Porter. I would absolutely be all over Jarquez Carter. I'd pass on James Smith. I would have interest in Quay Russaw because I think he could bring you maybe some pass rush ability. I like Mylan Graham a lot as a player. I question the fit and the need. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, but he's a dynamic player and you don't turn down a dynamic player. True. If you felt he was a fit off the field, you felt he's going to come here, go to class, do the work, be a good team player, be part of the rotation, and make some big plays, and sure, bring him in because he's dynamic. You have Jordan Faison and Jaden Greathouse already. Yeah, okay. Well, then you'd have Jordan Faison, Jaden Greathouse, and a locked-in, I want to be part of a team and make plays and win a championship, Mylan Graham too. But if from that group all they got was Keon Keeley and Quincy Porter, I'd be a very happy guy.
Agreed.
Very happy guy. So, yeah. Yeah. Okay, so apparently the DJ McKinney thing might not be true. Pete Nakos just said that it's been removed. So,
I'm sorry to laugh. Like, that's about right, man. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. That's pretty much just kind of par for the course right now with how this stuff is going. I'm actually updating this on the board.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, that's freaking hilarious. I mean,
that's about right.
Honestly, I'd never heard his name before with anybody, and he's a 6'2" outside corner that's never played the slot. I didn't understand the fit anyway. So, yeah. I got to tell you the text I just got from Ryan. He's just like, what the heck is going on?
Oh,
I have no idea what's freaking going on right now. This is so dumb.
That's okay. I needed that laugh, man. Like
this is so dumb. Oh, goodness gracious.
Oh,
I mean, it's just, if you can't laugh, you cry. That's basically what it is. But as I said, I don't know anything about this kid. He was never on the radar for me. I got some texts out. We'll see if anybody responds. I doubt that they do. But this is just ridiculous, man. It's just so dumb. Anyway, let's move on to the next question. It's so ridiculous. like there's this reports of the 2 Alabama kids visiting, and then I got a buddy who's connected he works in Missouri, and he's like, yeah, I don't know if that's true or not, because they're literally about to land here in like 30 minutes. You know what I mean? So like there's just so much stuff flowing around. This is why I don't cover the portal the way that some of you guys want me to, where I'm just spending all day chasing down this and chasing down that. And it's just, I'll just tell you, I was told they're going to get Xavier Gilliam. I had a story written that they're going to land Xavier Gilliam. And the next day he's committed to Tennessee. And then I get explained to me why they didn't get him. And you're just like, this is ridiculous. And I'm like, this is why I don't do it. This is why I don't report on this stuff, because you put an update up at 3:00 in the morning the other day, and by 9 a.m. that update was pretty much just didn't matter anymore. And that's not an example. I mean, that's not a random story. That literally happened the other day. I put something up. I finally put something up of the stuff that I was hearing, and by 9 a.m., like half of it was like, well, that's not happening anymore. So it's comical at this point in time.
It is exhausting.
Comical. It really is.
It is exhausting.
Yeah.
From Mark Couch, which Notre Dame hater that has been the most vocal this season? Phillips in the ACC, Pat Narduzzi, Joey McGuire, Brett Uramack, the Big 12, Lincoln Riley, etc. will get the biggest serving of humble pie this season.
Well, a couple of them dudes have already got their humble pie served to them. The Big 12 and Joey McGuire already kind of had their humble pie served to them.
Yeah.
When Oregon came to town. Pat Narduzzi already had his humble pie. He's had his humble pie served to him like year after year after year, because he keeps getting destroyed by Notre Dame. And I'd say 37-15 was pretty good humble pie. I don't know about Phillips in the ACC. About the only way you're going to be able to do that is, to go out and win the whole thing next year and blow out every ACC team you play. So, Lincoln Riley, I mean, he's already got tons of humble pie, but I think he thinks it's chocolate. So, yeah.
Yeah.
He can't tell the difference between it. So,
no.
But I think the Big 12 is going to be that team. Of the most likely, I think it's going to be the Big 12.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. Super chat from Tyler Evans. Appreciate you, man. What is your favorite OC hire and DC hire that you know so far, and some that you laugh at, like the USC DC?
Who'd they hire?
No idea. I'm looking right now.
I mean, of the hires that, look, honestly, Tyler, I get at you. I think you kind of ask these questions every year, and I'm usually like, look, I can't know all those. I can't track all that, plus recruiting, plus the team, plus this, plus that, plus that. I kind of wait till all the dust is settled, and then I go back and look and see who got who. So, I honestly couldn't tell you.
They haven't hired anybody yet.
Yeah, a lot of those things. So, I really don't have a lot. The season's not even over yet. I'll go back and look. I do look. I didn't love how Buster Faulkner used, the Jamal Haynes this year, but I think Buster Faulkner is also a very creative offensive coordinator. I think that was a good hire for Florida. I thought John Sumrall hiring Buster Faulkner away was a good hire. I think Mike Elko improved his defensive staff this offseason. Jay Bateman's out, and he's brought in some better coaches. I think those things make sense. Some of these others, I mean, I'm not locked into those, to be honest with you. I'll say this. I think that James Franklin bringing Brent Pry back was a move I was not expecting. It's a bit of an odd move, but I think it's also a great move if the players liked him and respect him. Think about this. Brent Pry gets fired as the head coach at Virginia Tech, replaced by James Franklin, then gets rehired as the D coordinator by James Franklin because he was with James Franklin at Penn State. Now, you don't see that very often. And knowing James Franklin, I'd be shocked if James Franklin didn't at least in some way talk to the leadership of the football team to see what they thought about that move. I would be shocked if he didn't. But you don't see that every day. But they worked well together at Penn State. He did a very good job at Penn State. So, but a lot of these other hires, honestly, Tyler, ask me a month from now. Because some of these I'm just like, I don't know who Stanford has hired as their coordinators. I know they hired Tavita Pritchard as their head coach. I haven't seen a lot of these other things. Here's one. I think that hiring the D coordinator from BYU was a really good hire for Kyle Whittingham at Michigan. That's one that I'm aware of. That was a strong hire. I thought that was a good one. I think it's Jason Hill, something like that. Yeah, he hired BYU's D coordinator. BYU is a really salty defense. And he's going to have Michigan caliber athletes compared to BYU caliber athletes now. I thought that was a very strong hire. That's one of the few that I'm aware of. Like, has Texas replaced Kwiatkowski yet? I don't know that they have.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, Tyler, I just mean this. I love answering these questions. It's a timing thing. It's not that I don't want to answer the question or don't respect the question or, dude, why are you asking us these questions? I love that you ask all these questions. I would just say in the future, let's let the season be done and like all the hires actually be made. Then we can address these. I enjoyed your question the other day about the portal quarterbacks, but I'm going to want to talk about it again when all the portal quarterbacks have found their homes. So I love the fact that you bring up national football questions because Trev and I like talking about national football. My only request is that just like, let's wait till all the dust is settled and then we can talk about it. Because I can't give you I can't give you a quality answer to match the fact that you're asking a very good question and paying a super chat to do so. So that's kind of where I'm at. Jay Hill, thank you, Luke Breeding. Jay Hill. Oh, Texas hired Will Muschamp. Not a good hire, in my opinion. So, yeah.
Clemson also went back and rehired their old offensive coordinator
Morris
from 2011 to 2014. That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's a name.
Yeah.
How good of a coach is he now?
Right.
How is he in the modern game? I'm not sure. We'll see. But yeah, some of those are good hires. I don't love the Will Muschamp hire at all. That's not a great one. And if USC, Jay Melvin says the rumors USC is going after Pete Kwiatkowski. That's a good hire. I think he's a good coordinator. And they had a top 5 defense a year ago. He was the scapegoat because Steve Sarkisian can't fire himself.
Yep.
So he was the scapegoat.
20%.
Yeah. That's kind of where I'm at on that one. So Tyler, I do appreciate you, man. I really do. I hope you don't take that the wrong way. We love those questions. It's just I can't give you a really good answer for that right now. Okay, let's get to some more questions.
It's a heck of a name. From Jackie Moon, love me sexy. Why are you guys fans on Notre Dame? Why should we continue to support the team? Starting to think and have been wondering if the school is really serious about winning. Seems they care more about money.
Well, you got to care about money if you want to win in today's era of football. So I don't have a problem with that. I mean, they should maximize their financial value. Like, maximizing your financial value is not something I have a problem with. I have a problem with losing your identity as you do that. And I do think there was a time when that is the case. Look, I'll just tell you right now, I've had some conversations with some people that would know these things and some people who've given money to Notre Dame. Money is not a problem for Notre Dame right now when it comes to supporting the program. And Notre Dame has absolutely done everything they can without selling their absolute soul, which I do not want them to do, to support Marcus Freeman and the football team. They're about to open up about a $200 million indoor brand new football facility that they raised money for. They in the last 5 years, 6 years, created a brand new indoor practice facility, which was state of the art, just a tremendous facility. They spent hundreds of millions of dollars renovating the stadium. They have one of the most expensive coaching staffs in all of college football. They've paid big money to get Sam Hartman and Riley Leonard and Malachi Fields and all that kind of stuff. Marcus Freeman's one of the highest paid coaches in college football. The school is doing everything they can to support the football team. They care. Yes, they care about money because money is how you support the football team. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not a chaser of money, but I do as much as I can without sacrificing my soul to be in a good financial place because I want to support my family. You know, so, you know, I don't agree necessarily the premise. And this is from someone who doesn't agree with everything that Notre Dame does. We just got done explaining that we don't think they have good PR because we don't think they really care as much about the common fan as they should. And, you know, so they're far from perfect, but I still support the team because I don't have a reason not to. I mean, it's kind of like, and it may not be eternal. I never would have dreamed for 20 years of my life that I would stop caring about the Denver Broncos. And yet I watched one Denver Bronco game all year, and that was to watch Cam Hart play in the last game of the year. You know what I mean? So, I never would have dreamed as a kid that I wouldn't care about the Cincinnati Reds or the Boston Celtics. And I watched a grand total of 0 Cincinnati Reds games the last 2 years. And I don't think I've watched the Boston Celtics play since the NBA Finals a few years ago. You know, so like you can eventually lose your fandom, but I don't think that Notre Dame, I think that you're falling victim to the constant negativity barrage on social media that's happening right now, which I understand. But I would just say maybe unplug for a little bit. I think, honestly, everyone should take a Sabbath from social media at some point in time, every year. And like I'm going to be taking one soon where the only time I'm going to get on social media is to post stories that we do because that's just kind of part of the job. But like I won't be engaging. I'm not going to be on it all the time. I'm just going to be off it because I just think sometimes we get a very warped. You know, we're not, our moods are not being determined by reality. Our moods are being determined by what an algorithm is trying to tell us is reality. And like there was one time on YouTube, I actually accidentally clicked on a video. I was looking for, I can't remember. I was looking for some kind of food show because I like what, you know, Trev, we talk about it. I like watching like how to make things and stuff because I like looking at technique of how to do things. My wife wants me to learn how to make pad thai. So, you know, I'm looking at this is an example, but like I clicked on something for a different type of food. And like the next day I go to YouTube and like, there's like 8 videos to, you know, recommendations of like, and I'm like, I don't even want that thing, you know? So like it's, I think we're falling victim to that. Why am I a fan of Notre Dame? Because even still, even though they're not a perfect institution or a perfect program, they still fight for what's right. Or I should say, shouldn't fight for what's right, but they do what's right more than the vast majority of programs because I'm a big fan of tradition. I'm a big fan of history because I grew up watching Notre Dame. I grew up loving Notre Dame. And I still have a great deal of respect for Marcus Freeman. I still think he's someone who can win a championship at Notre Dame. I still think Mike Denbrock's one of the best in the business. I still think it's a talented football team. I still love going to Notre Dame Stadium every Saturday when they have a home game. I still love sitting in the press box and looking to my right and being able to see touchdown Jesus and the dome in one without having to move my head. I still love looking over the left, you know, looking out to the left and just seeing nothing but the tops of trees as far as my eyes can see. And when the sun's going down, it is still just like, I thank God and I am blessed to be at Notre Dame doing this. I still absolutely love Notre Dame, but I'm also going to call them out when things aren't going well. But never once have I thought, despite knowing way more about the program than you guys do, and you be glad you don't. Trevor's learning that the hard way. I still absolutely love what Notre Dame stands for. in a lot of ways. And I have not once thought, man, I don't even care about this crap anymore.
No.
I care about aspects of it. Like I don't care as much about recruiting, but I still care about the recruiting class. I don't care about the day-to-day of following it, but I still care about who they sign. You know, I still care that the people that are in charge. There's a lot of things that Marcus Freeman's doing right now I don't agree with. I still think Marcus Freeman's one heck of a representative of the University of Notre Dame. I don't agree with every play call Mike Denbrock made, but I think he's an absolutely a great representative of the University of Notre Dame. I don't agree with every recruiting decision that Mike Mickens makes, but I think he's a tremendous representative of the University of Notre Dame. You know what I mean? And what they stand for. And that's why I'll never stop being a fan of Notre Dame. As far as, you know, I just, it's hard for me to think. There are some things that could make me feel that way. But I'm just saying, like, I still love Notre Dame. But you don't have to agree with everything they do to still love them and still want to root for them. There's nothing Notre Dame's doing right now that should make you, in my opinion, not want to continue rooting for them and support them as a whole. And again, love and support doesn't mean you have to agree with everything. That's cultish behavior. You know, if you don't think Marcus Freeman's ever done anything wrong, I'd say, you know,
but that's the thing, though. It's like
to do.
Why do we love Notre Dame? Because it's bigger than Marcus Freeman. It's bigger than Mike Denbrock. It's bigger than CJ Carr. I love Notre Dame because Saturdays in the fall, I can turn my brain off and distract myself from whatever negative thing is going on and just focus on that for a little bit. If you don't want to, that's fine. Like, look, I'm sorry. This is just me personally. I'm getting real sick and tired of how much negativity there is. And Jackie, it's not just you. It's everything all encompassing. We got to get out of this mindset that just all money is bad. Like money sometimes is a necessary evil, but you need it. For Notre Dame to put as much effort into recruiting and facilities and having state-of-the-art things, you do that with money. You don't build a $200 million facility because you look cool, because Marcus Freeman has a decent bald fade. Like you need money to do those things. Like, we love Notre Dame's independence. How are they able to stay independent? For the amount of money that they generate. Now, there's a threshold that you can't pass. Like, there's a line that you can't pass when it comes to money, and we've seen programs do it, unfortunately. But we got to get out of this, like, money's bad, and I don't like Notre Dame anymore because I'm being told not to. If you don't want to, that's fine. Like, you don't have to. But we gotta get out of this mindset, because it is, I mean, it's just exhausting. Like, that's why the transfer portal has been exhausting. I'll be very transparent about that. The transfer portal has been exhausting, not for the amount of people entering in the portal. It's for every person that enters. I have to try to convince people that Notre Dame is not about to get the death sentence as a program.
This is a perfect example. And Let Manager One has been a IB member for years, and I love you. But, like, this is what I'm talking about. How so? A bunch of backups aren't going to be on the team next year? A bunch of guys are going to be on the third, fourth string have left? There's been three guys that have left that would have been a factor next year. Armel Mukam, Josh Burnham, KK Smith. That's it. And only one of those guys was likely going to start next year. You know,
100%. We spent half of the season trying to convince people that Josh Burnham should be in the rotation and should be playing. But then the second he leaves, people are acting like Justin Tuck just walked out the door.
Right.
Like, it's just,
and they don't have anybody left. Right.
Right. Like, that's what's exhausting about the portal, is that with every department, and it's not just, believe me, IB is almost a sanctuary compared to the other stuff of text messages that I get from family members because they know the job that I do now, from friends that understand. It's like, with every portal entry, it's what's going on? Is this the end? It's like, the end of what? Notre Dame? Because their 19th string wide receiver left? No. Like, what are we talking about here, man? Yeah. Like, that is the most exhausting part.
Yeah. Like, Trev, you and I came into this process, said they need one D tackle, maybe one receiver, a kicker, maybe a nickel. And that was really where we were. When Josh Burnham left, okay, now you need a DN. That's all we thought they needed before all this happened, before we knew that it wasn't going to be run well and all this. That's all we said we needed. We said then they don't need a whole lot. And some things have had, Armel left and Josh left. But like KK leaving, I'm not surprised by that. I'd have been more surprised if he came back. Who do they lose that all of a sudden changes your outlook on next year's team? That's what I'm talking about. We're responding to, like, the guy that works a 9 to 5 who loves root for Notre Dame on Saturday, but is just too busy with 3 kids, taking them to soccer practice, and he's not on social media. He doesn't really get on the IB message board much. He probably has a very different opinion of where Notre Dame football is right now than those of us who are on social media every single day. You know what I mean? And he's going to look at the roster at the end of this whole process and be like, that's a pretty good football team right there. And that's why I keep saying, guys, relax, let the process play out. Then we will give honest assessment about how the process went, what the roster looks like, and all that kind of stuff. I promise you. You guys, that's why you're here. Yep. You're here because you know I will tell you the truth. And right now, the truth is we don't know how this portal process is going to end. It's going to be a sloppy journey. And there's a lot of things Notre Dame did not do well that they're going to have to fix. But let's just see who they end up getting first before we start talking about Notre Dame's not going to be a top 5 team next year. Let's just take a deep breath. Let's let this thing play out a little bit. And we'll see kind of how and then we'll have some conversation about it. Okay, that's all. I'm just asking for one more week. That's it. So, and look, somebody said, I think there's other few Notre Dame podcasts that are egging fans on. I can't speak to that. I can't speak to that. And I got no negative things to say about them, but I was like, but that's why I just say, make sure you know, if you're listening to them, make sure you also listen to others that you think are given a little bit more of a calm, rational voice. And balance all of it. You know, like I'm not someone that says, don't watch anyone else's podcast, but just know what you're getting when you go in. It's like people that come and watch our show and they're like, why are you guys talking about this? The show's called Irish Breakdown. And so we break things down. Like, I don't know why you're not sure why we're talking about this thing that falls right under the breaking down category. So that's kind of where I'm at on this one, Trev. It's just like, let's just relax and, yeah. There you go. Let's just let it play out first, and then we'll have a lot to say. And I can't control what other people do. If you think people are doing things that they shouldn't be doing, then don't watch their shows. Just like if you think I'm doing things that we shouldn't do, if I'm putting information out there that we shouldn't put out there, and I'm saying things that we shouldn't say, and you should stop watching. I've done that. I like watching political shows. I like watching history shows. But then there comes a time where it's like, dude, the things that made me like watching you're not doing anymore. You're doing this. I'm out. Or, man, all you guys do is talk about the worst things that are happening in our country. I can't keep putting that negativity into my spirit. I got to take a break. We all make those decisions. So that's all I would ask that you do is if you think that's going on, then just, you know, make it's what I said yesterday, Trev. What are we lacking? Discernment. It's my 2 cents. I'm tired of doing rants this week, though. So, and now we're going to go to this question from Jay Melvin. Thanks a lot, dude. Thanks a lot.
This is just, brother, this is just addressed to you, so I'll let you handle this one. Brian, can you rank the worst goal line losses for Notre Dame in your opinion? 05 USC, 2014 FSU, 2015 Clemson, 23 Ohio State, 25 Texas A&M.
The worst for me was, and I'm going to ask Trev for you to give your feedback on this as well. So he's asking me, I'm asking you. The worst one for me was probably Florida State. Because I was there. I mean, actually, I was at 4 of those 5. The only one I wasn't at was USC 05. The Florida State one was bad because I felt like of all of them, that was the one where Notre Dame got screwed the most, even more so than the Texas A&M game. Because, I mean, we all know what happened there. Notre Dame earned that win, and it was taken away. You know, the one that hurt the most as far as like the most heartbreaking was 05 USC. Like, that one was the most heartbreaking. I think the Florida State one for me always strikes me as the worst because it was just like, that was dirty. Kind of like the A&M one. 23 Ohio State, I mean, you got beat. 23-15 Clemson. Those don't hurt me. Those are like, yeah, you made mistakes in 23 OSU. 2015 Clemson, hey, don't fumble the ball inside the 10-yard line and maybe you'll win that football game. You know what I mean? Don't spot them 14-0 because you shank a punt 15 yards on the road. You know what I mean? Like, don't fall behind 21-3 or whatever it was. and don't fumble the opening kickoff of the second half. And those weren't bad for me. Those weren't heartbreaking. USC was heartbreaking because that was such a tremendous back and forth game, and to just see it end the way, because the difference there in the Florida State game are the two where you thought you had the game won, meaning like you thought the game was over, and it got taken away. So, yeah. Chris Hummer is now reporting that Notre Dame's signed status with DJ McKinney's signed status with Notre Dame has been rescinded. So they signed him and it got rescinded. This has been a nightmare for Mike Martin and his crew. I gotta find out what happened there. This is such a joke.
In pertains to your question here, Jay Melvin, because I will, in all seriousness, I will answer it. 05 sucked, but and I've told you guys before that was the first game that I sat down with my dad and watched start to finish. But like I wasn't as invested as I was when I got older. So like it sucked, but I didn't like. Does that make sense? Like I didn't understand the magnitude of why it was rough. Yeah. So 14 Clemson or 14 FSU is one. I got kicked out of a Wings Etc. for that one.
Hold on. Wait a minute. What?
Yeah.
Do tell that story.
Yeah. So I was there with some friends. I was a senior in high school and we were watching and I was like, okay, like there were rumblings all season long about how like, this Notre Dame team could do it. Like this Notre Dame team could go on a run and, they could be in the first ever college football playoffs. And so we were watching that game and they threw the touchdown and I was like, like, this is it. Like I'm celebrating. And like the server already had to come over to me and be like, hey, like you have to quiet down. This was also the last time I like watched a game in public. And so I was like, all right, I'm sorry. I'm just getting too amped up. Mm-hmm. And then I saw the flag come out and I knew immediately what they were going to call. I was just praying that they were going to pick it up. And then they didn't. And they called DP or OPI. And I stood up and said some words that I'm not going to repeat live on air. And when I stood up, my like chair flew back from like behind me and like fell on the ground. And then the servers came over and they're like, yeah, you got to go. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's fair.
You're like,
so
at least you didn't make a scene on your way out. You're like, yeah.
No, I understood completely why they asked me to leave, but I was okay with it because like in my mind, I was like, fine, I'm done with my meal anyways. I'm never watching a game in public again. Still haven't since. And then 23 Ohio State, I was at the game in the stands. We had season tickets that year. And that was a bittersweet moment for me because that was the moment that Lauren was like, okay, like I understand it. Like I understand the kind of the mystique, I guess you could say, of Notre Dame football. Like I understand why you love it. Because we went to the 2019 Boston College game, but like that one was you know what I mean? Like they won like 44-0. I mean, it was not a big deal. So we went for 23 Ohio State. Like she understood it. Like College Game Day was there. Like the player walk was awesome. Like we tailgated all day and went in and I saw them run out 10 guys. And I was like I just actively, because we had end zone seats. And I was sitting there, I was like, yep, that ain't good. And
then did it again.
And then did it again. And then
because they had two plays. Mm-hmm. 2 plays. Like they had 10 on the first play. And then nobody on the sideline saw it, apparently. And they did it again.
I know. Like it was the roller coaster of emotions. Like a lot of people gave Jared Parker flack for that screen call that he tried to dial up to Jadarian Price. If that call got completed, or if that pass got completed, that was 6. Oh, like yeah. I was in the end zone.
That's why you don't run that at JT. Yeah, he makes those plays so well.
Yep. Yeah. That was 23 Ohio State and 14 Florida State are my 2 for sure.
Yeah.
But that's my story about getting kicked out of a Wings, etc.
That's freaking hilarious. Somebody said Trev threw a wing at a ref.
I would have thrown more than a wing at that ref if I was in Tallahassee. Mark Couch. I would assume not, but is there any crossover between Notre Dame's media team and the Peacock production staff that may be a cause of distraction when it comes to the Notre Dame sports media's national response?
Again, there is a lot of crossover between the two, but I just have a hard time believing that you can't walk and chew gum at the same time.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's guys. There's not some we're too busy thing. Like that's part of your job.
Yep.
You know, it sometimes it's okay to just say it just doesn't. There's no they don't value it appropriately and just call it a day. That's how I see it. There's no other thing you can present to me that's going to tell me something different. And a lot of people that I deal with every day at Notre Dame, I'm quite fond of. You know, there's a lot of good people that work over there. It's not that they're bad people. It's just I don't agree with the things that they're doing and the decisions that they're making. There's some people I don't care for very much. And guess what? They don't care for me very much. And I don't care. But like there's some really good people. There's a lady that, you know, that helps us out with stuff and, you know, and you know, super kind. Trev, you've talked to her, just great lady. I always enjoy my conversations with Alan and, you know, there's a lot of good people over there, man. There's a guy that works in their media team that I worked with at Defiance. He was at Defiance in the SID office when I was coaching football there, you know? So it's just the policies are what I don't like. And that's the issue. I'm very fond of Marcus Freeman. I don't agree with his media stance. And I don't like the fact that it's so much different than when he was a coordinator and had no problem knowing us and talking to us and sharing things with us and coming on our shows, but then we can't get that same thing with his assistant coaches. Doesn't mean I dislike him as a person. This means I don't agree with that stance that they're taking. And it's frustrating. And that's where I'm at.
Another one from Jay Melvin. Brian, do you think Miami will actually win the championship this year, or will it be similar to Notre Dame's run last year where you get to the championship but get outmatched?
Well, no. I mean, I don't think Miami's going to get outmatched by either Indiana or Oregon. I don't think any of the teams remaining are as better than everybody else than what Ohio State was last year. Now, that doesn't mean the game's going to guarantee to be close, but they may get outplayed. They won't get outmatched. And I don't think Notre Dame got outmatched last year either. I think Notre Dame got outplayed. I mean, I put about remember there's like 3 or 4 plays that I put on a breakdown. I put on the board after that game when I was breaking down film. And there was a play where if Rocco Spindler, it was 14-7. And if Rocco Spindler goes outside on a counter instead of going inside, it's Rocco, Jadarian, and a DB. And that's it between him and an 80-yard touchdown run.
It was Jermaine Matthews. It would have been JD and Jermaine Matthews one-on-one in the open field. Give me 24, 8 days of the week.
Right. And there was another play where they had a guy wide open on a pass play and Riley just missed him, just threw it into the ground. There was another run play where they called a penalty, a false start, and Notre Dame had Ohio State out-leveraged, and JD was about to house it. You know, like there was a lot of things like that where execute better here, and maybe Ohio State still wins, but the 34-23 would have been you were down 27-23. You turned it over on 4th down, and they went down and put it away with a touchdown. It would have been a much more back and forth game. They got outplayed. They didn't get overmatched or outmatched. It wasn't 2012 Bama.
Playing a team of that quality on that big of a stage, those minor lack of attention to detail mistakes end up in very big negative results. Like that's what that game was. Agree completely. Brian, you put up an awesome breakdown of the things that went right and the opportunities that were missed. There's a film breakdown on the message boards. I remember watching them, and it was just like, it was little stuff. Like it wasn't even stuff like, we make fun of, we kind of poke fun at the play where Charles Jagasaw in the Orange Bowl pulled in the wrong direction and still deleted a guy.
Yes.
But pulled it. Yes. It wasn't even a mistake like that. It was just he went inside shade of
the crushed that dude.
Dude.
And that dude's like, you weren't even supposed to be here. It's like he went the complete wrong way. Jadarian's getting tackled for a 4-yard loss. And Jagasaw's going the other way, tearing the dude. I love you said deleted them. That's a great way of saying it.
Just absolutely deleted
completely the wrong play. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like I used to joke about this with Brendan Clark. I said, man, Brendan Clark throws some of those beautiful passes you'll ever see a Notre Dame quarterback throw. The only problem is they land not within 10 yards of an intended receiver, but man, it looked pretty getting there. You know what I mean? But like, these are like a guy not doing what every lineman's taught on counter.
Yeah.
You know, a quarterback not hitting an open receiver on a dig route that he could have caught and run. It was stuff like that where it wasn't even, it's not even like, oh man, if so-and-so doesn't get blown up on that play, that might go. No, that's getting outplayed. That's football. You know, and it wasn't stuff like that. Now, would they have won? I'm not saying they would have won, but what I'm saying is it would have been a 4-quarter game. You know, Jack Kaiser hitting the wrong gap on the 70-yard touchdown run or 70-yard run by Quinshon Judkins. Like, that wasn't Ohio State. I mean, Ohio State did a good job blocking it up, but if everybody did their job, that's not a 70-yard gain. Things like that are things that got them beat. And as well as Ohio State being very good and playing very well. And again, I don't know that Notre Dame would have won if they executed in those things. All I'm saying is it would have been a much more competitive 4-quarter game. That's what I'm thinking.
Super chat from Gandil Vids. I'll change it up. We have a dominant freshman class. Appreciate the super chat. We have a dominant freshman class we all loved 1 month ago who will have the biggest breakout freshman season.
Yeah, we got asked this on the other day in a mailbag, and I think offensively, the guys that are on my radar for potentially having big years are Caden Finley and Ian Premer on offense. I could see a scenario in which one of the two running backs makes an impact, even if it's just on special teams, maybe as a returner. Defensively, I think you got to keep an eye on all 4 of the defensive linemen.
100%.
I think one of them, pick one, you know, like who you think might be that guy, but they're all 4 got a shot. And then, you know, both Kari Adams and Joey O'Brien are 2 other guys that I think could have a shot to make an impact this season for sure. Yeah.
Agreed.
Good question. I like that change up. Oh boy.
All right, Bees. We're starting off hot. Bees are 12, washing beard. Brian and Trevor, who's the better quarterback in your opinion? Peyton Manning or Tom Brady?
Well, I mean, there's just so many different ways to view better. At the end of the day, Tom Brady won 7 Super Bowls and Peyton Manning won 2. And that has to matter at some point in time. Who do I want running my team? It just depends. I mean, ultimately the goal is to win championships, right? And Tom won more championships. If I was starting a team from scratch and I could have both of them in their year 5, I'd probably go with Peyton. Honestly, I've often said, what would Peyton Manning's career have looked like early on in their rivalry if he had New England's defense? You know, so that's kind of where I'm at. I'd probably pick Peyton, but it's, you know, the championships, they are what they are. So.
Yeah. I live in Indianapolis, so I feel like if I don't pick Peyton Manning, somebody's going to leak my address and I'm going to have a knock on my door here in about 25 minutes.
You're going to totally get doxxed. There's no doubt about it.
So I'm going to just say Peyton Manning and we'll leave it there.
It's a win-win. They're both all-time greats.
Agreed.
You know, and I'm taking neither one of them over John Elway. I'm just saying. Sorry, we already had that one. Let's get a couple more. Andrew Gilmore had a question about Stuart Mandel's article about rev share rules. Andrew, I have not had a chance to read that article. I will, and we'll maybe be able to talk about it more on the board. So maybe bring that question up on the board, and we'll be able to talk about it. So last couple. Here's a fun one from Acupuncture.
Which would you prefer? Quarterback 2 is a gunslinger or a true dual threat?
As a QB2, I kind of prefer a little bit more of a dual threat guy. I don't want a gunslinger because I'm okay with gunslingers turning the ball over, and I don't want my number 2 quarterback coming in and turning the ball over. I want a guy that's more of a dual threat because I can get out of a game a little bit easier with a guy that can run a little bit. I can run more bootlegs. I can run more, read zone, some quarterback run designed runs. I can run some play action. I can run quick game. I can do those kind of things, and it'll help get me out of a game. What's interesting, Trevor, is as a starter, I want a gunslinger. As my number two, I want the dual threat guy that can we can just rely on the run game, rely on the move in the pocket with our sprint out, bootlegs, nakeds, things, play actions. Can make some some good decisions to get us out of a game. That's more of what I prefer as my 2BQ.
Absolutely.
QBQ.
That old 2BQ, baby. Line them up. Line them up.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm with you. To put it into Notre Dame terms, I would rather have Riley Leonard as my QB2 and Jimmy Clausen as my QB1. That's how I would formulate my team. Agreed, for all the reasons that you said.
Yep. Let's go to this one.
From Forklift, 1976. If you were the emperor of Rome and knew the knowledge of what you have now, how would you change the empire to prevent the collapse?
Don't grow so big. And at the end of the day, that's really what it comes down to. You grow too big. I have some other reasons why I think Rome fell, but I don't think those are going to be well received in a show like this because they get into cultural and moral and political arguments that I don't really care to have on a Notre Dame football show.
Fair enough.
So, but the biggest thing at the heart of it all is they got too big. And yeah. They got too big and they got too powerful. They couldn't. They would spend so much time defending borders in such a spread out manner that then they ultimately left. What was happening in Rome. And again, the other part of it is that I will say this is greed, power. Power hungry. It's like if you were a great general, it was almost like, oh, you're done. We're gonna kill you. You know what I mean? Because like and that was more later in Roman time. That was more towards the end, but they just got too big in my opinion, and along with some things that I just don't really care to talk about in this kind of show, because it's impossible to not have a moral, cultural, political debate or discussion about the fall of Rome beyond what I just said. Corruption, and they got too big.
Fair enough. Super chat from Gandalvids. Appreciate you. Thanks, guys. All those guys are much better than a worrying about overpaying for other teams' backups. Thank you for proving the point and reminding us how deep we already are. Go Irish.
Yeah, I want to make sure we're clear, and I do appreciate that. We're not saying that we're totally fine if they strike out in the portal. Like, no, that's not okay. That's not good. I do think they need D-line help. I do think they need at least one D tackle and one defensive end. I'm simply saying that this notion that if they don't go out and get like 10, 11, 12 portal guys, if they don't get a receiver, the offense is going to suck. If they don't get 3 defensive tackles, the D-line is going to suck. Like, that's what I'm kind of pushing back on.
100%. I'm with you.
Yeah. Eric Santini, Roman breakdown. Yes. Yes. Yes, exactly. I like facilitates comment as well. That's one. There's a lot of good comments in there from you guys as far as some of that stuff. But yeah, and then here's the last one, Trevor. I'm gonna read this one. Oh, here we go. Here's from Irish Lions. I couldn't leave Trev hanging. Gotta wipe your memory of one of these: Tyler Eifert, Michael Mayer, or Kyle Rudolph. That's actually an easy one. What do you think, Trev?
I'm not wiping my memory of Tyler Eifert.
Okay.
Like, that's the one that's staying.
Let me see if are you having trouble picking the next one, Trev?
I'm probably going to delete my memory of Michael Mayer, if I'm being honest.
I bet I know why.
Why?
Because when you think about Michael Mayer, it forces you to watch the 2022 offense.
Well,
and the 2021 offensive line. That's why?
Well, hey, no, that's definitely along the same lines. I was thinking more like memories of like highlight plays, and I'm always going to remember, even though they lost that game, Kyle Rudolph's like 98-yard receiving touchdown against Michigan. That was nuts.
The reason I'd go with Kyle is because we just never got the best of Kyle, because
that's fair
injured every year.
That's fair.
But when he was healthy, he's a darn good football player.
Yeah,
darn good football player. I love this. Broke neck boy. Drew Brees is a better arm than John Elway. And he says, please don't ban me, Brian. I wouldn't ban you. I would try to help you find a good therapist, because clearly you've got some issues going on if you believe that, man. So, no, that ain't accurate at all. I think that's hilarious. Let Manager One did have a follow-up, and I appreciate the super chat from that. He says, sorry, Brian, my comment wasn't about players leaving. It's just kind of felt like amateur hour these last few days. Doesn't feel like a final machine is all you meant. In that regard, spot on.
Yes.
Spot on. Like, I'm taking that as like the roster, the prospects for 2026 and all that. Fortunately for Notre Dame, the people that have basically are running the absolute like train wreck that we've seen from an operational standpoint the last few days are not the people that are going to be coaching the players up in the fall. So that's good. But in this regard, I'm completely agree with you. Yeah. Yep.
Agreed.
Yeah. Irish English says, apparently he'd pray for you, not ban you. That's what I got for expressing the clear argument that the Hulk is better than Superman. Well, that's because yours is just so outlandish. You know what I mean? That, like, you know, you could say, well, by better arm, he was more accurate than John Elway. And he's also young. His name is Brokeneck Boy. He's a young guy. He probably never saw John Elway play. So I understand that. But for you, an adult, a smart, intelligent person, I'm perceiving that to say that the Hulk is better than Superman. I mean, at that point in time, man, we're,
and as much as I love superheroes, Drew Brees and John Elway were real people that
I'm having some fun with Irish English, but there's no argument to make that Hulk is better than Superman. You know, I mean, Superman can put coherent sentences together. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, you know, you don't have to say Superman smash. You know, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. So this is what I love about Irish English. He takes this stuff so much in stride. It's so much fun messing around with him. Like when he made that tight end comment the next day, his next 5 comments are like acting like he's got a duck from everybody coming at him because he knows what he's doing. But it's all a good fun, man. I appreciate you very much. It isn't good fun. Yeah, all in good fun. And NH agrees with me, and that's all I need to know right there. Bam, there we go. So we're good to go. All right, Trev, that is going to do it for today's mailbag. Good stuff.
Yep, that was a good one.
Oh, here it is. Let's end on this one. From Irish Lions, what's your best memory as a Notre Dame fan? Not a player result or of a game, but an experience you shared with family, loved ones, friends.
Going to the Notre Dame IU playoff game with my dad. That was a rough time for both him and I. He had just lost his dad not even a week prior, and I lost my grandpa not a week prior. And we got to go up and spend quality time together. And that's my dad and I don't have a whole lot in common. Hobby-wise, just kind of how we view things. We don't have a lot in common, but the one thing that we do is we both love Notre Dame. And that for me is like, regardless of the result, like we spent the entire day together. We tailgated together, went to the game, and then obviously the result was awesome. But that's definitely my best memory.
Well, and just for context, for people who may not have remembered Trev explaining at the time, but part of that too is your grandpa was part of your Notre Dame experience. The 3 of you would share Notre Dame experiences together.
Yep.
So then you and your dad being somewhere that your grandpa would have loved to have been with you guys was pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mine is still the first Notre Dame game I went to with my dad. And both of us went to, it was the 07 USC game. And I've said this to people before, they could lose 50-0 that day. They almost did. And it wouldn't have taken away from that day. Yeah. That's the first one for me. So I have 2, and they're from the same season. Going to a Notre Dame game with my dad was still something I will never forget. And just that we could both experience that moment together for the first time was pretty awesome. Later that year, I went to the second Notre Dame game I went with my then girlfriend, Angela.
Hey.
And it was the Duke game, and it was rainy. It was cold. Notre Dame sucked. Duke sucked. Jimmy had just thrown a touchdown pass to David Givens. I think that's kind of the way that it went down. And it made it like 28-7. I'm actually pulling up the box score to try to get a sense of making sure that I'm accurate on this. But yeah, he throws a touchdown pass. I think it was to David Givens. It makes it 28-0. There's like the next series they're out there. She's not a big football fan. She's there with me. And I look at her and I go, all right, they're up 28-0. Like there's like 5 minutes, if you want to go, we can go. I'm like, I'm ready to go now. She looks at me and she goes, what are you nuts? There's still 5 minutes left in the game. And I was like, I'm marrying this girl. Smart. I'm absolutely marrying this girl.
Smart.
And by that April, she was no longer Angela Cataldo. She was now Angela Driscoll.
Bang.
So yeah, I was like, okay, I'm marrying this girl. So if you think about it, that year was an awesome one for me in Notre Dame because I got to go to my first Notre Dame game with my dad. And he was a Notre Dame fan, and that's how I became a Notre Dame fan. And then that same year in that stadium, I mean, looking at, going towards the new scoreboard, we were up in the left side under the new press box before that was all up. Still remember that. And she looks at me dead serious, like, what are you nuts? They're still and we were parked far away, Trev. We had a hike to get back to the car. What are you nuts? There's still 5 minutes left in the game. And that was the trip that cemented, because she met my family for the first time that weekend, and it was pretty awesome. So that was the trip that was going to like make her like, okay, is this really going to, so that was pretty awesome. And now she's you know this firsthand, Trev. She's probably a bigger Notre Dame fan than I am now. She gets more upset about stuff than I do now. Which is pretty funny.
No, that's a keeper, bro. That's awesome. No, that's awesome. My
facts. Absolute facts. Brian had to fight the urge to drop on his knee that second. You're darn right. So did you surprise your wife, your now wife, with your proposal? Because I was actually able to do that. So let me tell you a story of how I proposed to Angela. So I knew I was going to marry her. And I mean, I was late 20s. We weren't like 19 and 20. So we weren't like two kids. And, we had talked about marriage and stuff like that. And so I had a friend of mine, Carrie, who I went to high school with. She and I went out and we did some ring shopping. I kind of found out from Angela's best friend what she liked, what her ring size was, and all that kind of stuff. And I was going out to visit her right after Christmas. So I actually went and bought the engagement ring before I went out there. And she was talking more about marriage more and more and more. And we were going to go to Estes Park up in Colorado, because she lived in Colorado at the time. And I already had the ring with me, but I was like, there was a mall right by where she lived. And I was like, you know what? You've talked a lot about this. I have no idea what you want in a wedding ring. So let's go to the mall. Let's go around and you tell me what you like. And then I'll know when that time comes, I'll know what to do. So we went and did all that. We went up to Estes Park and we saw Sprague Lake and all this. And there comes a point in time where it was snowing, it was cold, and I said, hey, how much do you love me? She said, I love you. I said, do you love me enough to let me borrow one of your gloves? She gives me she's like, give me that one. And so we're in the snow, and there's this arch over top of us, like a tree arch. And I got on the knee, and she flips out, and I proposed to her and all that kind of stuff. So that was pretty cool. Nice. I was actually able to surprise her.
Nice.
So that was our proposal, and that was a month after the Notre Dame game. I told you I knew I was going to marry that girl from that.
You did. No, you sure did. When I proposed to Lauren, we love to go hiking, and we go to Turkey Run State Park. It's like a little bit south of Lafayette, and we planned this whole thing because I knew I wanted to do it there because the backdrop was awesome, but it was like, I know she doesn't want to get proposed to in like leggings and like a tank top and like we're all sweaty and stuff. And so I was like, hey, like we just don't have any like nice pictures together. Like all of our pictures are like out with our friends or, we're doing stuff. And I was like, let's go get like nice pictures taken or something. She's like, okay, cool. And I was like, I think my sister's going to meet us there because my sister was a photographer and all this other stuff. And so we get up there. And we're all dressed up nice. And we started like walking around by like, there's like a big like suspension bridge that you can walk across. So like we were like in front of that. Then I said some stuff, completely blacked out, forgot what I said, dropped down on a knee. And then when I came out of my little temporary blackout, she had the ring on. So she said yes, which was good. But I would like to think that I surprised her. But I mean, hey, do you want to get dressed up and go to this park?
Yeah.
You know.
Well, another thing I did that week too is I had rented a limo to take me, her mom, and her stepdad out to dinner. So like I'm doing all these things where she thought I was going to do it. And then when I went to the mall and did that, it was like, oh, well, he's not going to do it. Because I wanted to get her thinking about it and then get her off her guard. So I was playing with her emotions a little bit, which probably kind of messed up.
The moment that the moment that I knew, like, I didn't have like I'm gonna like marry this girl surrounding Notre Dame, but we had a moment a couple seasons ago where I was like, yeah, I married the right one. We were sitting down, we were on the couch watching a game, and like I'm very fortunate that like there are some of my significant others that just don't give a rip about football, and like Lauren actually likes it, and she like retains the knowledge or she retains the things that I tell her, so she knows it and can recognize it. So we were sitting on the couch, and it was 2023. We were watching. Oh gosh, it was one of their away games. I think we were watching Notre Dame NC State together. It was like 3rd and 2, and we're sitting there, and she goes, "Why are they in nickel?" And I answered it, and I was like, well, like that. Look, they run a lot of 11 personnel. I was like, what? And I like looked over on the couch. I was like, what did you say? And she's like, well, Thomas Harper's out there. You said he's the nickel guy. Isn't that pass defense? And I was like, what the? I was like,
were you like,
yeah,
okay.
I was ready to renew yeah. I was like, shoot, we might have to move the wedding date up because we were engaged at that time. We get married till 24, but I was like, yeah, this is it. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's great. That's great.
That was one.
That's awesome. That's very awesome.
Oh man.
Well, good stuff.
That is a good way to end. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, folks, IB Nation Sports Beat's going live here in about 20 minutes. They have we in, we out. The thread's still up on the message board at boards.irishbreakdown.com. So make sure you get your submissions in. Brian and I will be back next week to continue talking about, honestly, whatever the heck this offseason has been.
We'll be back Monday. We'll most likely we're going to do a Monday show. So we'll be back Monday.
Right on. Well, on your way out of here, folks, be sure to hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that notification bell, share this podcast with your friends and family. Anybody that you know loves Notre Dame and college football as much as you do. But now that it is this crazy offseason, the best way to stay in tune and honestly to partially keep your sanity, better hop over to the premium message boards at boards.irishbreakdown.com. Have a fun and safe weekend. Until next time, that's Brian. I'm Trevor. We'll see you back here very soon on the Irish Breakdown Podcast.
We can talk about more transfers.